Quickly into space, Concepcion, blockers in front, and here he goes. KC says TD.
This is 365 Sports.
Final 30 seconds of the quarter. Second down throw to the end zone. Douglas. Touchdown, Texas Tech. What a drive.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sorsby the keep with a cut.
Broken ankles. See ya.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another first down for Vandy. Pressure off the edge. He steps up, and now he's going to run for the end zone and score. Diego Pavia.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Brown takes another shot. Wide open Koger. Touchdown, South Florida. 63 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday afternoon with so much to get to, including the college football opening round games on 4 different campuses. We'll have the odds on those games in a moment, along with many other things. Paul Catalina and also Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak, and thank you very much for your time here on 365 Sports. So, Kenny Dillingham has been saying, for the most part, all the right things. But I did notice this. It was a Michigan podcast that I happened to catch on my Twitter timeline. I started to watch it. It was a comment. Chris Karpman, who covers Arizona State, will join us tomorrow. And he was asked about what would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 is the angst or the nervous energy in Tempe, despite whatever we've seen and we've played on this show. And Chris Karpman said a 6 or a 7 and kind of leaning more towards a 7. So even with all of what we've heard, what he said, there is still, Paul and Craig, there seems to be some back and forth and nothing quite yet. Maybe he stays, but there are still some things that are not settled between Dillingham and Arizona State.
Well, he's got to use his leverage right now while he's got it. If even if he winds up staying and making sure that they do make the commitment to Kenny Dillingham that he's going to need to be competitive. I mean, and look, he's not talking about really even Michigan money as far as a commitment right now to the staff and NIL and all those different things. You've got to worry about the 2 teams that were in the Big 12 championship this year, and that's Texas Tech and BYU, who have both now very publicly kind of come out and done it, especially BYU just a few weeks ago with Kalani Sitake almost on his way to Penn State. So if you don't want to, see a different version of that story than BYU had, they're going to have to step up. And, you know, the one thing he said in the press conference is like, I love this place. I'll always love this place. Nothing's going to change that. Leads you to believe that, like, okay, yeah, he's talking about a place he could go. Like, if I go to Michigan, I'm not going to all of a sudden not love Arizona State, but they've made me an offer, and it's in a profession that is not finite. Coaching is not finite, that you may have to take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Arizona State fans would love, and those who are 100% positive that Kenny Dillingham will never go anywhere, I'm sure they would love for this story to just move on along. But it's actually the folks around Arizona State that are keeping it alive. It's Kenny Dillingham's own words or lack of full-blown denial that's keeping at least the embers burning a little bit for the rumor mill to keep churning over. So, again, today, and I saw this from the Arizona State side of things, this wasn't somebody just kind of pulling this out of thin air, but he's asked about his job and things like that, and he said, I think my job's to try to do whatever I can for the people that are with me, the people that are in the foxhole, the coaches that are in the foxhole with me. I got to do whatever I can to fight for those people, for my family, for everything, for that perspective. But then he says this part, and this is the part that when you want to read into things like this is what you can read into. He said, and I love it here. I've said that since day one. That's absolutely never changing, absolutely never changing. So, yeah, that piece is never changing. So you go, okay, well, what is the big deal about that? And it's just the part where I love it here. I've said that since day one. That's absolutely never changing. And if you want to read into that, you can easily read into that of, well, he does love it here, but he's not saying that he won't leave. And him saying that that's absolutely never changing is almost like, I love this place, and that no matter what I do, I'm always going to love this place is how some could look at that. So, you know, until Michigan hires a coach, this is going to be the situation. There's going to be people like Kenny Dillingham or who are part of the rumor mill, and no matter what they say, unless they pull like a Kurt Signetti move where they sign a contract onto your desk, then there's going to continue to be rumors. I think that he's using his leverage at minimum to get all the things in place that he wants to get in place that I talked about yesterday of no matter how much you love somewhere, you're also a competitor and you also want to be able to compete at the highest level. And you're looking at what Kalani Sitake just did at BYU by using his leverage with the Penn State job. He was able to get everything that he wanted and more. Joey McGuire didn't have to ask because he just was already given everything, and then they went out and won with it. So now he'll probably get more in return, but he did get rewarded for at least finishing the job to the degree that they won the Big 12 title. So I think Kenny Dillingham just wants to be in line with guys like that and with programs like that as far as resources. So yesterday I said, like, no matter how much he loves the place, Arizona State, it's their turn to pony up and make him stay. And so I guess that's what they're still in the process of. And until that all gets completed and until Michigan hires a coach, then, yeah, you're going to continue to have reading between the lines. And you're also going to have, like I saw our buddy Jason Shear, who covers Arizona, like they love this story. Why? Because they want to see Kenny Dillingham leave. They would love nothing more. And even though they beat him just a couple of weeks ago, that you love to see your rivals hurting, right? So they're definitely pouring gasoline when they get an opportunity to do so. But how much is there an actual fire? I think everybody's kind of cautiously optimistic, but it's not out of nowhere. It's not like this is all just being based off of nothing. It's being based off the fact that he's still very much working on whatever that deal is going to look like. And until that deal's signed, and again, until Michigan hires a coach, and he's out there, then they're going to keep talking about it.
Yeah, Dillingham, you seems like he wants to stay, but then finish the deal, get it signed, and Michigan remains like, I don't know about limbo, because they're Jed Fish is, kind of a name that's, how about that? Another former Arizona college coach now at Washington. And who knows if anything changes between now and the next week with some games being played as well.
I do think if the days continue to drag on, then you start just to almost
this is getting to be a little bit, I think so.
Yeah, so hopefully they can get that knocked out in short order and finalize everything that they need to finalize. And, I mean, again, this is a call to arms. He's been throwing this out there, but Arizona State folks, truly, if you're one of those people that spends money on the program or has money and wants them to do well, like this is your time to answer the call, answer the bell, and get to work. And so I'm sure they're scrambling and going to do what they can. But, you also don't know how much is just like leverage and on the part of Dillingham and his agent, or at least on his agent's part, because I don't think Dillingham's probably too caught up in using the leverage and doing that. He's probably just doing what his agent tells him to do. But the longer this drags on and the longer Michigan search rolls on, then the more we're going to hear about Kenny Dillingham until one of those questions gets ultimately answered.
And then there's Cincinnati. As I didn't think that we would ever have too many tweets as far as outside of college football at the top near the headlines, or even men's basketball. But here's Cincinnati. Scott Satterfield with the news that Brendan Sorsby will be entering the transfer portal. And he was asked about it. And in the end, they even listened to the question at the end where he was even asked about, did you counter it, or do you think you had enough money to keep him from entering the portal?
Brendan Sorsby announced his intentions into the portal. What were the conversations like? What was his message to you, your message to him about that happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's been ongoing talks with him, and over the last couple of weeks since our season's over, just talking over with his family and trying to decide on what is best for his future, obviously, as all the guys are throughout the country are doing that now. And he just, in his mind, he still doesn't know what he wanted to do yet, whether he pursue the NFL, which he's gotten a lot of great feedback. Still waiting for the feedback straight on paper that they send you from the NFL. Still waiting for that. But he's gotten a lot of good feedback through his agent on that. And then also, as we all know, he's had a really good year, and he's gotten reached out to by a lot of schools. And that's the nature of the college football world that we're living in right now. And, appreciate everything he's done for us in this program. Had an outstanding year. I think 1 touchdown shy of the school record for touchdowns responsible for. Obviously played at a high level this year. Otherwise, he would not be sought after like he is through the NFL and other colleges. So, and I think this is the case for all college football players nowadays. It's changed so much just in the last 3 years. And people can say 5 years, 10 years, but in the last 2 years, it's even changed a lot. I think, us coaches and us programs, we have to be grateful for the time that we do have with any players that are on our team, and which we are. And then, at the end of the season, I feel like where we are right now, the adults in the room have created all these rules. These kids are looking at their situation individually and trying to figure out what's the best for me. And that's the world that we're living in right now. And so we have to do, as coaches, do the best we can to maneuver this and go through it. So, but again, I appreciate everything that Brendan has done for us in this program over the last 2 years.
Could you have afforded him? This is a dilemma that coaches are going to run into. When you have a good player, the bidding war goes up.
Yeah, there's programs out there that certainly can afford players better than we can. And I think, as you see, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the portal right now. I think, including some guys in our conference. I've seen several guys in our conference that are outstanding football players that have gotten in the portal. I've seen it in the SEC, and, all over. I think when the dust settles and you start seeing where some of these top quarterbacks, if they play in college again this year, you see who's got the money. Because when quarterbacks play really well out there throughout the country, everybody that wants to compete for a national championship that has those kind of funds, you're going to see that's where those guys end up going. And, to answer your question, probably not.
Probably not. There we go with Scott Satterfield, Cincinnati, on Sorsby. Before we get into that, Gretchen Sigmund, Cincinnati, we mentioned Sorsby's girlfriend. Here is the tweet that she has, in fact, announced that she's going to be at Texas Tech. There she is with the Tech flag, and then also with the Tech uniform, and she will go play volleyball in Lubbock, which then, of course, leads to the speculation that has been going on for a little bit that he would end up in Lubbock too.
Just hope that if Brendan goes there, it doesn't go the way of Carson Beck and the Cavender girl that ultimately broke up, because if love can't withstand a 2-sport transfer, then I don't know what world we're living in right now. It's a sad, sad one where 2 crazy kids like that can't make it. But, I think the writing is strongly on the wall for Texas Tech to get Brendan Sorsby, but we're still waiting to hear from the NFL. And as far as what Scott Satterfield said, I think he's dealing with it, frankly. He's not, flying off the handle. So maybe there's some acceptance on that. I think there's some coaches that wouldn't have been as professional and some that would be just like that. So it is what it is, and he's moving on. It sucks for Cincinnati, and it's going to be good, really good for likely another college.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like that Tech is already in conference, already basically being able to parade around that they're getting the guy. Like, I don't love that kind of open free agency sort of aspect to it all, and especially when it's interconference. It's just not my favorite type of thing. I wish he'd go off to the SEC or just something different rather than turning right smack around and running into your old team. But that's what's going to happen when you have so many guys moving around, is there's going to be interconference and there's going to be this and that. So it's a part of the deal. But yeah, if he's going to land somewhere right now, it seems like the safe bet is it would be in Lubbock for the money and for the girl and for the football and for whatever other reasons that they throw his way. So I think it would be a tremendous pickup for Tech. Definitely a prolific player when he's at his best, and a guy who I think cleaned up a lot of things in his game this year. Didn't have a lot of help around him. He'd have a lot more help around him at Texas Tech, and you can see where, as much as he may love Cincinnati, he's kind of tapped out the resources there and tapped out the potential these last couple of years. Perhaps not, but that's just kind of how I view it and how I might view it if I was in his shoes, where you've had 2 consecutive seasons where last year you completely slid down the stretch of the second half, and then this year didn't exactly do that, but very similarly just fell over and over again down the second half. It wasn't quite the slide that eliminated you from bowl contention. You were able to get bowl eligible and then lose some games, but you didn't finish strong at all. So does he want to come back and rerun that back again for a third time and just hope that this time they win 10 games and they're in the Big 12 title, or does he want to start somewhere with a bunch of money and his girlfriend and all that? I think the latter seems like it would make a lot of sense for him, but let's see what the NFL says. Either way, somebody's getting themselves a heck of a talented quarterback. Definitely a guy that would provide a nice spark to that Tech offense while they await Will Hammond getting healthy, or for any other team for that matter. I saw a bunch of Nebraska fans were clamoring for Brennan Sorsby, and I think anybody out there right now who needs a quarterback, he's near the top of that list as far as the eligible guys right now. So, yeah, I would say my money's on Texas Tech to land him. I mean, they've got every podcast known to man, I think, talking about Sorsby to Tech that resides out of Raiderland. That's like the top thing outside of the playoff run right now. And they're going to make a lot of noise in the portal. That would certainly be a big shockwave early on, would be to go and get him and set yourself up next year really solid at the quarterback spot.
You wonder if it wasn't for the concern with Hammond and his long rehab. They do have the 4-star quarterback that's also on the roster. But, again, in this day and age, you're going to always be adding a veteran. You wonder if Hammond was healthy, would they still go after Sorsby, who's a better quarterback, although Hammond is good, another guy that unfortunately has had to deal with the injury.
Well, last year you had some Texas Tech fans telling us with even less evidence of Will Hammond that they would not take Carson Beck over Will Hammond.
That was
I didn't believe that, and I still don't believe that.
Yeah.
But I went along with it eventually because there was no point in fighting it because Carson Beck didn't go to Lubbock anyways. And we do know that Texas Tech is being used as a pawn in a lot of these stories, to the point of, like, I don't even know if they're involved in half the stuff they're mentioned to. I just think agents mention them so that the money goes up.
Well, like the Cowboys.
Yeah, it was exactly like the Cowboys. So who knows to what extent that was all real. But I felt like it wasn't like Baron Morton was this 100% sure thing that if you could go get a Carson Beck, who was a more proven guy, still is a more proven guy, that's something you would maybe do, especially if it's an all-in type of a year like they were setting up for. Now, it worked out well where Morton stayed mostly healthy, and they didn't really have to win through him as much as they won through defense or big plays. That part of that was him, of course, but he had a really good year, and it didn't end up mattering in the end. So entering next year, to your question, if Will Hammond was 100% healthy, I think they're in a position where they got to win national titles now. So, like, I think you kick the tires on anybody that you feel like might make you better, but we don't know the answer, and we won't know the answer because he did get hurt. And so there's no reason to even wonder, really, because we're never going to know. I would think that if he was healthy, they'd probably go get like a veteran depth guy, if anything. But with him missing what could be significant time, you need like a real deal starting quarterback. So that's why Sorsby makes a lot of sense.
So I would just answer the question this way. No matter what, they were going to go get a quarterback in the portal, because if Will Hammond's healthy, even when he was healthy, they have him and then the true freshman that they signed in this year's class.
Right.
And then they don't have another quarterback coming in. And that's not even for sure, although, he's been very vocal about it until 2027 when that kid comes in, unless he reclassifies in the next 3 weeks and then he's there too. But other than that, they don't have, other quarterbacks on the roster. So they'd have to get somebody. And if you have to get somebody anyway, whether you are confident with Will Hammond as a starter or not, if there are guys out there that you think are better than Will Hammond, I think even if you kind of penciled him in, you're going to kick the tires.
No, you have to go.
So no matter what, they would have.
Every year, no matter maybe even what your quarterback depth chart looks like, you should add a veteran quarterback. And unless you have a couple of guys that have played quite a bit. Yeah, they have Baron Morton, who obviously had a great year. Lloyd James III is the freshman who was a highly ranked player when he came out of high school. Couple of 3 notes on UT. They don't lose many players to the portal unless they were told to leave. I don't know. Paxton's our big UT guy and a few others, but DeAndre Moore, really good player, is not expected back for the 2026 season. Justin Wells, a friend of the show, 11 touchdown catches, over about 1,000 yards in his career at UT. Remember now, their wide receiver core with who am I thinking about? Who was the big play player? But
Ryan Wingo,
but also drops, etc. So Moore's in the portal. Then Leonga Leifau, the linebacker, is expected to enter the portal. Now, this one here set off a chain reaction from some Texas fans that I saw after that was posted by Inside Texas, because they're going to have some attrition at the linebacker position. And finally this, and guys didn't respond to this, is this a trend there? Are they pushing him out or what? From C.J. Vogel. Look at the linebacker depth chart at Texas when it comes to snap counts as they enter the bowl game. Hill, NFL draft. Moore, UTSA to Texas, NFL draft. And Leifau's now in the portal, and then everybody else very sporadic when it comes to the number of snaps. They'll bring guys in. They'll also bring transfers in too, but there we are with their depth chart at linebacker.
Well, look, that's just for the Citrus Bowl, and it's not like Texas is going to go into the market saying alms for the poor. Please, someone, just some good charitable linebacker, come here. They'll be able to get what they want. But for a game against Michigan, who likes to run the ball right at you, not having those 3 guys at linebacker that have played the most. Potentially, and I'm not like, does that confirming that they're opting out Moore and Hill?
No.
But I mean, it's if they do, and a lot of times you don't find out they opt out until the day of the game. But yeah, if you don't have those 3 guys against Michigan, that's going to suck, and they're going to lose those 3 guys anyway for next season. They won't be there, and so they'll have a new crew of linebackers. But that's the nature of college football anyway, and it's the nature in the portal era that most years you wouldn't have lost. You would just lost your 2 NFL guys, and the portal guy would have stepped up and been the next NFL guy. But, he's gone, and they've got to refill it. But, again, nobody's going to worry about how they're going to do it.
What do you mean by it's like they've officially declared they're opting out of the bowl?
Oh, game. They have? I didn't know that.
That's what the reports are. Is that Anthony Hill already said that he was not going to play in the bowl game, and then he's entered in the NFL draft. So those are guys that have already come out and said they're not playing. That's why they're reporting that.
Yeah, that was when I said that, and Smoak said no. I was like, oh, okay.
No, I didn't know about the official part of it, but that makes sense. If they're going to enter the portal even before the bowl game, then they're not going to play in the bowl game. Although Sarkisian, I think, was the one that said,
well, Anthony Hill's going to the draft.
Yeah,
guys.
no, he's
yeah.
Yes. And then you still have Simmons, and then you wonder about him because he's an incredible talent too.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got a combination of things going on. But, yeah, they've got guys like Anthony Hill that are officially going to the draft. And then they've got the guys who like Leifau, who's going to enter the transfer portal, and more here is what you're talking about. I mean, Michael Taff, another guy who declared for the NFL draft, I believe, is opted out as well from the Citrus Bowl. So you might want to double-check that list because I think that list is growing as we speak here on the show.
He's a safety, not a linebacker. That was just a linebacker depth chart.
I'm just saying in general for Texas and the Citrus Bowl, I think that you're going to see a long list of guys who aren't playing the game. But, yeah, as far as the linebacker position goes, I think with Leifau, a guy who played a bunch of games, and to me, based on the reaction I saw, this is a money thing. This is what that was. That's the reaction that I received yesterday, and it was more of he's from Hawaii. Maybe he gets closer to home. But minimum, he is testing the market and seeing what's out there for him, because it wasn't a lack of playing time. It was far from that. It wasn't not gelling. It was far from that. This guy was a major contributor, and I think they had hopes for him heading into next year. But it sounds as though maybe there's some negotiations going on, and maybe Texas got too pricey for them, or maybe they didn't have the patience to negotiate. I don't know, but that's how that decision kind of came across to me. He's a good player, though, so he'll be good for whoever he ends up with. And then DeAndre Moore, I just felt like he was always very hit or miss. Like, he had moments here and there, but he was never like the guy, even though he was one of like the guys that they recruited over the years, these big 4 or 5-star type receivers. You're waiting to be like the next great Longhorn wideout. And DeAndre Moore had some plays here and there, but yeah, it never felt like he was just some dominant force. And I'm not really worried too much about them with the wide receiver position either. I think that's a position that Sark's going to be A-okay with. So still interesting to see that. They were big time. It's interesting to watch certain guys hit the portal, because just 2 years ago, they were getting thousands of retweets for their commitment, and it was a big-ass deal. And then here they are a couple of years later, and they're in the transfer portal, and that's just kind of the game that we live in now. But, yeah, they're going to be missing – between the transfers and the NFL opt-outs, like Anthony Hill, Michael Taft, et cetera, they're going to be missing quite a few guys for that Citrus Bowl against Michigan. And we'll see with Michigan. I mean, the reports are that Biff Poggi is just trying to basically keep everybody's head above water at this point, and he's just doing what he can to basically keep everything as okay as possible in the light of their scandal. So I believe when he last talked, he was unsure about who might still be available. That was something they had presented to the team and basically said, like, hey, if you're in it, then great, but if not, we understand. And so I think that's what they're working through now. So that Citrus Bowl is going to have a great name on paper. Like, when it comes to actually the two teams taking the field, there will be star powers. We'll get to one star that we know is going to be around. But, yeah, at least on the Texas side and potentially on the Michigan side, there's going to be a lot of big names missing.
I saw Poggi. I think one of the quotes was that they feel betrayed, Michigan players, because of what happened with Moore. Now, a couple other notes, and then a little nugget I found out today. Zane Flores, Oklahoma State. New coach is Eric Morris. He is entering the portal per his agent. He's from Nebraska, went to Oklahoma State. Remember, they had all sorts of issues at quarterback. He threw 3 more years of eligibility. He ends up now in the portal.
Yeah, not a surprise. And there's actually Oklahoma State had a tight end Josh Ford committed to Alabama today, so they've got some players that are in demand. So it's not a huge surprise that Zane Flores in the portal at all. And then there's news that Drew Mestermaker will be in once the bowl game's over. So you wonder if Oklahoma State's that destination, or if it's then a bidding war for a guy like Mestermaker.
Zane Flores, there's no Oklahoma State fan that's batting an eye over this. He did not have a good year at all, and so I think it's best for him to move on and for them to move on as well with a new coaching staff. And, yeah, Mestermaker's bound for the portal now, so put 2 and 2 together. Sure seems like he would be a logical choice for Oklahoma State and Eric Morris, but he'd be stupid to not just jump in there and see what everybody has to say first, at least drive the price up, because he could end up making as much as anybody, given that he's got at least 2 years of eligibility, or I guess he's got 1 year technically for sure, because he's a redshirt freshman. But he's going to be a major upgrade if that's the route Oklahoma State goes. Regardless, they should have a pretty big upgrade.
Absolutely. Okay, one note. I saw this from Pete Thamel adding on to Dylan Raiola entering the portal. Then he said, Raiola is seeking a place where he thrives, or where he can thrive in the best harness his potential and develop for the next steps of his career. No shit. I mean, that's what I saw that today. Now, I was on the phone with a high school coach today talking about NIL as the state championship week in Texas with everyone playing up in Arlington. He told me, and we were going over what the NIL is like now in high school for college recruits, that he had a player who was committed to a school but wanted to take another trip or two, and the school that he was committed to promised him $250,000 if he didn't take his last visit, thinking that the last visit was probably where he might end up, and that doesn't mean always the case. And he was promised $250,000 not to take his final visit.
Okay, it's crazy that you do that. especially given the fact that they could just go there anyway and go there in a year. But to have $250,000 to essentially light on fire and give to somebody to not take a visit, man, I hope I'm that rich one day. I mean, not that I would do that, but I would like the opportunity to be able to be like, you know what, I'm going to give somebody $250,000 to just not go to Georgia for the weekend. Like that to me is outside ridiculous. And it shows where we are in college football right now, but $250,000 not to take a visit, to probably not even like just tying it in with what Shannon Terry tweeted out yesterday about how the big donors are kind of getting exasperated. Well, if I'm that guy, I must be some kind of super fan, because I'd be pretty exasperated if I have to pay $250,000 to get people just to stay in the recruiting class and not take a visit.
No, if you're doing that, you're a mark. That's what you are. You're a mark booster. If you're paying $250,000 to prevent a guy from taking a visit, you're a mark. But yeah, we'll hear, I'm sure, in short order that they don't have the money, that the poor schools, they need you to donate more. Oh, this house settlement, it's bending us over backwards. And meanwhile, you've got this example. We got the example yesterday of a school who is paying guys to just be committed, not to do anything for them, to just be committed. You're getting paid to just do that now as a big-time high school recruit, and probably a mid-level high school recruit at this stage as well. So, yeah, that whole system is broken and stupid, and I don't want to hear anybody else talking about, woe is me, we don't have the money. I believe that for some of the smaller schools, but you can inject however much private equity or private capital you want to. There's still going to be marks doing mark stuff and finding ways to bend the rules and constantly trying to maintain an advantage. So until they get like a real set of rules where there's real punishments, you're always going to have people doing weird things to try to get whatever advantage that is, including paying $250,000 to not take a visit, or paying tens of thousands of dollars to just be on a commitment list, even though you never even signed there. It's weird that we're at this point of it all. $100 handshakes, that's understandable to some extent, but just burning money basically for guys to not do things just seems like this thing is way more backwards than we even realized, I think, most of the time, because this is just stupid is what it is. I would not get involved in that, and maybe that means you lose games and you lose jobs and you kind of have to pay to play, but it just seems very backwards. And there's been a lot of warning signs, but this stuff of paying guys just to remain committed or to not take visits, I think, is a step too far for me.
And you could also offer him that he can accept it and still commit and go to the trip.
Well, he can't. He could just not taking the visit. Like, hey, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks for the walking around money. I'll just Zoom and say, you know what, Athens looks pretty good. You know, they paid me $250, $250K not to get on the plane. They're like, okay, well, you're going to make $350 base salary plus this here anyway. So come on, whatever it is. Sometimes even more than that, depending on who you are. But I do think it's crazy that you're at this point that you're having to pay recruits just to stay in a like on the website.
You're getting paid just to be a recruit.
Just to be a recruit. That's
just to be a recruit.
So
the conversation we had.
And if I'm with someone, like if I'm Ohio State and I'm a booster and you're $400 and some odd million in debt, and you come to me and be like, you know what? You guys have to figure something else out, which is probably why the private equity thing sounds so good to them, because it's like, you guys are in debt. We gave you all the money for everything. You're in debt, not me.
Yeah. So there's that nugget. I thought I'd share that with you today. I was like, wait a minute, say that again. And some of the things that are promised, even players who signed recently, who all of a sudden have coaching changes, and now all of a sudden they're looking around because they can, and you've been paid, even though you're not even on campus yet, and now you might be able to go double dip and go somewhere else. Now, this is not like massive news, but it is, because Craig alluded to this earlier with Arch Manning is going to be back for the 2026 season. They play Michigan in the bowl game, the Citrus Bowl. No surprise whatsoever, but our good friend Dave Wilson from ESPN, who I've known him for, golly, when we used to cover junior college basketball, got a text from Cooper Manning that said that Arch would be back at quarterback at UT next year.
I think you're really downplaying it. I think this is massive news, even if it's expected news, because he's that big of a name and that big of a star for that big of a brand. I think it is massive news, even though it was expected. And it's what we thought was probably going to happen. He had a really strong year, sort of a rocky start for sure, but by the end of it, those last few weeks, I think that he had really gotten his bearings and gotten comfortable, and they had made some changes that were better for him along the line. And just I think all of it sort of started to come together for him, and he definitely outplayed Marcel Reed in the final week of the season. And I think now you get into an offseason where you relaunch the Heisman campaign and you get back to that talk. And this time around, there's not going to be any, no, we didn't really say that time. Like, we didn't. No, you guys, and by you guys, I mean, you know who you are because you're the ones that talked about Arch Manning every day for like years on end. They did promote him as the Heisman Trophy winner last year. He was the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and he fell short of both of those things. But I do at least feel like this year it's fair to put that on him, as opposed to last year when if things had worked out really well, maybe that's how things would have broke. But he did need a year to kind of get his feet wet and to get more experience. And I think with all that under his belt now, that next year you do look at that and you go like, why wouldn't he be the Heisman favorite entering next year? Or why wouldn't he be one of those guys you think makes New York? Not based off of hype and like 5 appearances or whatever at the end of games or a start occasionally because yours was hurt, but like a full body of work, especially the second half of the season, some of the throws he made, the decision-making, you go, yeah, actually next year, number 1 overall pick, top Heisman choice, that'll actually very much make sense for him entering next season and not just based off of kind of the hype in the name like I think some of it was this past year. So, you figured this was going to be the case, but you don't know until it's official. And so he's officially back, and they will sell a lot of Arch Manning jerseys in Austin, and they will have major expectations heading into next year, no matter how many guys go to the NFL.
Patrick Cheney, one of the first notes in the chat room was, is that really something you need to put up in the headline of your show? It is. He's still that big of a deal. But this also happened late last night, not like earlier today. But, yeah, he's coming back. And we'll have a little bit later on. We saved Lincoln Riley on players who are coming back, who sign new contracts or renewals, and what he says that college football teams, coaches, fans, and also others should do because his quarterback was making a decision about whether he came back or not. When we come back, we will hear from one of the most popular Twitter feeds in a long time as far as a fan account from James Madison, Jake Fitzpatrick. If you have not followed the Twitter feed for James Madison, you should. And he is next. We'll also today have Shahan Jararaja, Matt Brown, and John McClain off the radar. The big finish. This is 365 Sports.
Plus has teamed up with the Dallas Cowboys as the team's official battery recycling partner. Batteries Plus doesn't just sell batteries, they recycle them too. Customers can bring in old lithium batteries from power tools, power banks, and small electronics for a chance to win Cowboys tickets, a VIP experience, and more at qualifying locations. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes. Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And, of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game, poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Got floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Sometimes if you're on Twitter, you have certain things, homepage, and then you have those who you follow or those who might contact you or share stuff with you. But this JMU sports news has been spectacular, and I've asked everybody in the chat room. I sent you the link to join this particular line, and we are now joined by Jack Fitzpatrick of JMU Sports News. Had a basketball game on yesterday, couldn't join us. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about you. Tell me your history, your fandom, or what you do covering James Madison. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much for having me on. But I started this with a friend of mine, Bennett Conlon, back in 2018. He was a recent grad from JMU. I was in my senior year at JMU, and he just kind of reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to start a blog, a newsletter type of thing, which was a big deal around that time, covering JMU sports? And I was like, sure, why not? This should look really good on a resume by the time I am applying to jobs when I get out of college. And lo and behold, 8 years later, we're still doing it. We like to call ourselves fanalists. We like to cover the team as an analyst. We love more so I love nerd numbers when you're looking at, EPA, expected points added, success rate, all of those advanced analytics types of terms. I love looking at the team like that. He loves looking at it from a beat reporter's point of view. He used to cover UVA athletics as the beat reporter over there at the Daily Progress. And we, of course, know we're two grads, we're two fans, so we're going to look at it with some purple-colored glasses on a little bit more than maybe someone who's 100% unbiased, which is where fanalist comes in. But we've been doing it since 2018. We have a podcast, we have a website, and of course we have a social media where we don't take ourselves too seriously, and we like to talk about JMU, and we like to get into some fun-natured Twitter spats.
Well, I noticed you guys last week or so when you were talking about resting starters to potentially play Texas Tech and, slowing the videos down and all of that. Is this time, obviously in the playoff is super fun anyway, but for someone with your nature, is this just ripe for material? Because the rest of the college football world is just kind of taking a crap on JMU and be like, it shouldn't be there. It's because of the quirks and all this stuff. But for you as a writer and a humorist, I guess this has got to be fun.
This has been a blast. And I've got to say, shout out to the Oregon fans because they've been so receptive to it. And early on, I think I tweeted something maybe right before JMU was announced as the 12 seed, maybe right after. And I texted Bennett and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like they understand it. They get it. They're kind of receptive in how we're doing this. And then from there, really Bennett took a lead and just kind of started tweeting. We've both gotten into it and we've had an absolute blast because, yeah, I mean, while maybe not the entire college football world, right? We can point at a couple of pundits nationally that have been taking a crap on G5 sports, on G5 football. But for the most part, the entire country does kind of like this plunky underdog story, this little team from Sunbelt where JMU fans are like, we're not a little team. We've been having a great season, but it's ripe for it all. It's been fantastic. And to kind of understand what it is and understand how it is, it's been an absolute blast. And it's been a fantastic opportunity for us to get some fun jokes out there and have people also enjoy our types of humor, but also at the same time, bring a light to JMU sports, JMU football as well, about this team that's getting set to go to battle with the Ducks up in Eugene on Saturday.
What's it been like to see Curt Cignetti go off and have the massive success that he's had and really put JMU on another level as far as just the flashlight being shown on the place, and then to have Chesney roll in and do what he's done that's now catapulted him, and we know Billy Napier's on the way, but just kind of digesting these last couple of years, how much of a whirlwind has it been, and what's kind of the feeling being almost like in the washing machine, just kind of getting thrown everywhere, but ultimately when you get taken out, it's still JMU football and it's still successful?
Yeah, I mean, it was that Saturday when the Big Ten championship happened, the Friday before JMU won the Sun Belt championship, but it was kind of this whirlwind. And, oh, by the way, UVA lost in the ACC championship to get JMU into the college football playoff, which was a nice little cherry on top of the cake. But from Friday night, I was in attendance as JMU beat Troy in the Sun Belt championship, to Saturday night and all of the craziness that happened. It felt like it was a fever dream because you watch your team, JMU, win your conference title. Then you watch Indiana with your coach who was there, 24 months ago, something like that, at JMU. You watch him win the Big Ten title at Indiana with the key players being D'Angelo Pons, Elijah Surratt, Aiden Fisher, Tyreek Tucker. These are guys who were making their names over at JMU 24 months ago, and now to see them at the Big Ten level winning Big Ten championships, you're like, man, this is cool. And then there was a 60 Minutes interview with Curt Cignetti that ends up having a couple of JMU mentions in there as well. And you're just kind of, you're right, washing machine, being thrown around with it all. You're just like, this is a whirlwind of the last week and a half in terms of the notoriety and the JMU just overall mentions in the national media. And the fun thing, when you're done with a washing machine, you come out squeaky clean and you're ready to go. And that's kind of how it feels like as a JMU fan and someone who has been following JMU football since my freshman year in college, which was 2015.
So who came up with the slow motion idea?
That was Bennett. I saw that tweet. He didn't run that. It's not like we have checks and balances with the tweets, but I'm just scrolling Twitter just like everyone else, and I'm getting all these notifications like, is this real? And I'm seeing it, and I click into it, and I'm like, what is he? And I'll be fully transparent. He tweeted that. And I didn't understand the joke at first. It took me 2 reads of the tweets to then be like, oh, I get it. And in my mind, we've been sending out bangers. He's been sending out the bangers. I'm like, this one won't be the one that catches on. And lo and behold, it's been one of the biggest bangers that he's tweeted out over the last week.
So Bob Chesney going to UCLA. And again, all this I know stings a little bit, but it's been a kind of a coaching factory. I mean, you kind of know the score at this point, and he's only been there a couple years anyway, so it's not like you got super attached like a puppy or anything. But what is it like having to deal with that and watching this right now, and how do you think that affects this team, or do they kind of know the score anyway, that this is what it is being at JMU and we're just going to enjoy the ride?
I think it's been as a JMU fan, like some fans don't love being a stepping stone school. I, for one, kind of enjoy being a stepping stone school because you do get the best of the best coaching talent coming through. I mean, Everett Withers, he kind of began this all. He was at JMU for 2 years back in, 14, 15. He left to go to Texas State. Mike Houston comes in. He leaves to go to ECU. Then Signetti gets hired. He leaves to go to Indiana. Chesney's now going to UCLA. So coaches see and have identified JMU as a spot where you get a ton of resources. You get a ton of administration buy-in. And it's a place where you can bolster your resume and use it to leap and go from $750,000 a year to $650 million or $6 million and whatever it is that they can make a boatload of money after going to JMU. And it's been kind of fun because Chesney was the hot up and coming coach, both figuratively and literally. I mean, the dude's a good looking dude. And now he's going to fit in extremely well in LA. And after 2 years, you're right, I did not have a huge attachment to him. And Billy Napier comes to town, and it strays a little bit from the playbook that JMU has had in terms of hiring their coaches. Typically, they do go after, the FCS hotshot, but going after Billy Napier, who I would argue was probably at the top of most G5 lists. It's been exciting, and it's because JMU is a place that Napier knows he can come rebuild his image, get the stench of Florida off of him, and, potentially find another P4 job in 5 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. And being that, it puts a lot of pressure on the AD. I'm not the AD. I'm just the fan enjoying what the AD does. So until the AD messes up, I'm having a great time being a stepping stone school because it just brings a ton of success to JMU.
So how are you approaching expectations now with this Oregon game and just what to anticipate with the playoff and the showing? And obviously there's a lot of people proclaiming it's going to be a blowout, and then there's those fighting and saying, hey, man, don't underestimate JMU here. How are you kind of digesting everything, so to speak?
Like with the game itself, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. That's kind of my approach. I want to have a great time. I'm going to burn like a supernova. JMU Sports News is going to burn like a supernova. If JMU wins this game, can't wait for the Texas Tech battle in the next week. However,
my goodness.
I also understand that at the same time, JMU's a 21.5-point underdog for a reason. They've got the dudes, right? Like JMU's got a fantastic defense. They have the best defensive unit in the G5, but their offense has run hot and cold this season. And if the cold version of the offense comes up, this could get a little boring to watch. But if JMU's good version of their offense shows up and their defense plays lights out like they have all season, this actually could be a pretty fun game that's a competitive one going into the fourth quarter. And I'm not saying it's likely that JMU pulls off the upset, but there are routes out there where JMU's defense is able to cause enough havoc and create enough turnovers and do enough crazy things. I'm seeing that there might be a lot of rain coming in to Eugene, Oregon this Saturday. That is in favor of JMU, but I understand that at the same time, like Oregon is the fifth best team in the country. Like Oregon is a loss to Indiana away from being the potential 1 or 2 seed in the college football playoff. Like this is a darn good football team. Going to Autzen Stadium where they've lost once in the last, handful of years. It's hard to beat them there. The deck is stacked against JMU. So like I said, I'm here for a good time, man. I am here to bask in the sunlight and enjoy every minute of being in the college football playoff.
It is a program that has been to 4? Am I right? 4 national championship games at that level, and North Dakota State got them a couple of times. They've won it once. And what is the biggest? Is there a specific biggest win in James Madison history, like Boise State can always point to Oklahoma or Appalachian State and Michigan? Is there something like that for JMU?
I think there was in the FCS era. I think it was beating North Dakota State at their place on the way to the 2016 national championship. But I would say since moving to the FBS, JMU fans, and maybe it's just the JMU fans I hang out with, when we're talking like big wins, we're not like, if we're arguing with an Oregon fan or say App State or ODU, it's not like we pound our chests and go, well, back in 2016, we won in the Fargo Dome against North Dakota State. I would say that's probably the biggest overall. Maybe the Virginia Tech win for JMU back in, 2010. That's a pretty big upset that continues to get talked about. But I think in the FBS era, it was probably the Troy win on Friday. That was the biggest program win at the FBS level, winning the Sun Belt Championship for the first time in program history. So I think when you kind of talk about biggest program wins, there's a definite line of difference between the FCS and the FBS. FCS, there's a handful of them, and the FBS, they just earned their first.
This is going to sound like a random question, but as a James Madison alum, do they make you, like at a lot of colleges, they make you learn like James Madison trivia, fun facts, or things like that? Do you have those? Like he was the shortest president and, was really the best Federalist, all these different kind of things?
They kind of try to harp on those in the what is it, like the tour when you're going on?
Yeah.
There's a James Madison statue in front of what we call the quad, which is just like the meeting ground in the middle of campus. And I think they go, this is life-size version of James Madison. I'm not 100% sure on that. There's a couple of random ones, but it's not like we have it hit over our head. I will say every Constitution Day, I think JMU gives out like a pocketbook version of the Constitution.
Okay. Well, he was the last living surviving signer of the Constitution, so it's a big deal.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't see. I'm learning something new.
I'm a presidential trivia guy. That's why I asked.
You should be ashamed of yourself that you do not know all of that.
Look, I do not. What's the best fun fact about James Madison then? Is it that he's the last living survivor of the signing group?
The fire at the White House, that was a big one. Like, obviously you heard that. But I do think that he was the reason I've always liked him is because I'm a short guy and he was a 5'4" president. So to me, if you can't, like right now, if you ran for president at 5'4", no shot. None. No shot at winning. There's no way you could have unlocked a plan for everybody's a millionaire, and they'd be like, I'm not listening to the short guy. Now, I don't see him as any kind of authoritative. Not at all.
That's a good point.
Diego Pavia couldn't win the Heisman because of his height. So, last question, and thanks a lot, man. Jack, it's fun that you're having fun, and also you love covering the school. You have 25,000 followers right now on JMU Sports News. How many did you have a week or so ago? Is it a pretty good bump or just a slow, methodical bump?
No, it's been a pretty good bump over the last week. I'll say that. I pulled up the analytics this morning on Twitter just because I'm a nerd. I like the analytics numbers. If it's football, I like them. If it's Twitter impressions, I like them. Yeah, we've gained over 12,000 followers since the announcement on, Sunday? So just over a week, we've gained 12,000. So we were hovering around 13, nearing 14 when this all started. And yeah, it's been a pretty impressive bump from just a couple of funny tweets.
Well, good luck. Enjoy the week, and we'll see what happens in Eugene. It has been great to follow you. I mentioned it about 2 or 3 days ago. It's one of the best feeds right now on Twitter. Congratulations. And what's your partner's name that's also a part of the account?
Bennett Conlon. He's
Bennett Conlon. I want to make sure we get him some love, too. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and that's Jack Fitzpatrick, JMU Sports News, who's been my favorite feed, my favorite follow over the last week since the college football playoff was announced. Now, when we come back, Shahan Jararaja is going to be a part of the show. We also have our great friend, Matt Brown from Extra Points, and a little bit on the private equity, and he's been digging into a lot of that kind of stuff too.
One transfer portal note, Jace Brown leaving Kansas State, entering the transfer portal. So big time target for Avery Johnson, big time playmaker for them. He is officially entering his name into the portal, and I think he'll have a lot of suitors there, but that is a loss for Colin Klein and the new staff. 712 yards, 5 TDs this past season. So there you go.
41. He's been pretty consistent the last 2 years with 40-plus catches and 823 and 712 yards and 5 touchdowns receiving each of those years. When we come back, Shahan Jararaja, his thoughts about the Heisman weekend, but also as we get close to the opening round of the college football playoff. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store located on Lake Air Drive in Waco. And they have specials every week, but bottom line is you have the holiday season upon us. It's Christmas next week, then New Year's. We just went through what happened with Thanksgiving. And right now they've got a holiday beef tenderloin. They have 3 different types, Select, Choice, and Prime, from $13.99 a pound, $27.50 a pound, and $30.55 a pound for the Prime. They also have trim beef tenderloin that's anywhere from $18 to $40 per pound. And it's delicious. It's absolutely, when I do something, I usually do a very small prime rib, and then I nibble on it for 2 or 3 days with a little au jus sauce and maybe some horseradish as well. In fact, Paxton sent me a text that he had prime rib a couple of days ago. Had a leftover last night, but they have the beef tenderloin. It is absolutely just perfect. And you can even get some deliveries for any type of parties you're having when it comes to snack type trays. They will do that for you as well. Brisket, tri-tip, obviously full service butcher shop and full service bakery. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. They deliver their product to restaurants that you go and eat and enjoy. And they also are there for you at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Shahan Jararaja with us on Tuesdays. CBS Sports had his first ever opportunity to vote in the Heisman Trophy Award. I've been fortunate enough to do that for a handful of years. Paul, you're still campaigning?
Yeah, I will campaign until I get one.
I know a few people. You better start being nice to me, unlike this week.
Here's the thing. I worry that somebody's going to pass away, and then I'll finally get it, and then I'll have to tell my wife what happened. I'm like, oh, awesome! Some guy died.
Yeah, no, I know. So, Shahan, thank you very much for your time. We'll get into the college playoff and a few other things in college sports. But so I was fortunate. I got the letter 5-7 years ago or whatever, and Your vote should be published. You should vote. In fact, publish your own vote. But what was that like, the first experience for you?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, look, this was probably one of the hardest years to possibly get your first Heisman vote. There really weren't kind of an obvious level of contenders. Of course, the 1 and 2 kind of pulled away with Fernando Mendoza and Diego Pavia. But I mean, honestly, I think that there were good cases for a lot of guys. I thought that Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame had an interesting case. I thought that that Jacob Rodriguez, the Texas Tech linebacker, had a good case. I even was surprised that maybe some players like Ole Miss's Trinidad Chambliss or North Texas Drew Mestamaker didn't kind of receive better pushes than they did. So I thought that this was a really open year, and that made it fun. Now, ultimately, I went with Diego Pavia 1, Fernando Mendoza 2, Jacob Rodriguez 3. But I think that you could have eliminated all those guys from the ballot and still had a really good crop of players to pick from.
Yeah, it's a weird. What is the challenge? And I'm asking this for me, in your opinion, of you have to pick the best player in the country. That's the thing. Who is the best player in the country? Well, a lot of times that doesn't align with statistics either. If you ask me who I think it is, I think it's Caleb Downs. I would take Caleb Downs on any football team I ever had from here until the end of time. But I mean, it would be really hard for me to set up in front of any other of my fellow voters, even though I know you don't have to publicly do this, and be like, it's got to be Caleb Downs. He's better than everybody because they don't throw his way. He just makes lots of tackles. Is that a challenge for you?
Yeah, well, and look, their specific criteria is the most outstanding player, right? Yeah. I think that that's a different conversation than the best player in college football, because I agree. I think Caleb Downs has a really good case as being the best player in college football. I think that Spencer Fano, the right tackle at Utah, has a really good case to be the best player in college football. But to me, that's not necessarily what they're asking, right? I think that there is a lot to it. One, I think that for me, it's very important that you have production. Jeremiah Smith is probably the best offensive player in college football, but they didn't throw him the ball very much, And so it's great that he's going to be a fantastic pro and put up big numbers someday. But it does matter to me that you didn't do it this year on this team, right? And so I think that there's a couple other things that I look at, right? One, I think that when you start looking at value and impact, that's something that means a lot to me. That's something where I thought Diego Pavia specifically was really valuable. I think that they're actually going to really feel his absence in 2026 whenever he's gone. I think that also, you're looking for, to me, and I got, people didn't necessarily love that I said this, but I think that the story of the season is something that you have to consider with your Heisman vote, right? Because you're taking one individual player, and this is going to be the player that when you look 25 years from now, that you're defining this season by, right? Nobody remembers Toby Gerhart anymore at Stanford. He had a tremendous season. They remember Tim Tebow, right? This is, I think, part of the calculus for me as well, is that you need to be able to define who had the most defining season in college football. It's to me a lot more than just who do you think the individual best player is, or even who do you think the best individual offensive skill player is.
Shahan, the coaching carousel had ground basically to a halt outside of some assistant coaches needing to be hired, and then this Michigan bombshell drops, and it's been just a whirlwind, and it seems like it's kind of quieted down a little bit, but your thoughts on just kind of the chaos in Ann Arbor and what it's led to now is, hey, is Kenny Dillingham going to have to field questions every single day about the Michigan job, or is it Jed Fish, or just kind of how have you absorbed that story, and what do you think happens next as far as potential domino effect?
Yeah, speaking of people who have to answer questions every day about the Michigan job, it made my job a lot more interesting too, because now I'm having to do that as well. No, but so obviously the situation in terms of the actual incident is what it is. I think that it makes it really complicated for Michigan just trying to go through their process. We had conversations, of course, about Baylor and why they ultimately didn't move on from their coach in terms of the instability in their athletic department. Well, Michigan has some of those issues. Now, Ward Manuel, their athletic director, is going to make the hire, but they don't have a permanent university president at this point. There's a lot of pressure sort of circling around Ward Manuel as well. There's a lot of thought that he might be out of his role in the next couple of months. So, it's kind of a mess over there. And then on top of that, they're doing this independent legal review of their athletic department while you're also trying to do a coaching search after most of the top candidates have either moved or decided that they're staying put. So it's a very difficult position, I think, for Michigan to be in. They have to find and define kind of what this next step of their athletic department is going to look like. Do they try to take a big swing and throw a huge contract at a sure thing? Do they try to hire a caretaker? Do they try to just take a chance on a young up-and-comer? I mean, really, I think that there are good arguments for all of them, but there's no perfect arguments for any of them.
You know, yeah, the Michigan thing's interesting, and we mentioned at the start of the show, Kenny Dillingham is saying all the right things. He's being asked because they're asking him after practices, et cetera, but there's still that little door that's cracked. And I think he's also playing along with his agent that game to try to get as much as he can for not just him, but for everybody within the program. In the end, do you feel when does it become a problem, in your opinion?
Well, I think it becomes a problem when you start heading into the portal cycle and the recruiting cycle, and people don't trust that you're going to be there. I think that also it starts becoming a problem when your assistant coaches don't necessarily know whether you're going to be there, right? And they start having to make decisions about their own futures as well. So I think that we're still a little ways away from it, but everybody's going to have that January 2nd date circled, because that's the day that the transfer portal officially opens. And if you're a coach and you're not in your current job at the time, that puts you in a really tough position. Michigan's going to have to make a hire before the end of the new year just so that they have a new coach and likely a new staff in place in time to deal with all the realities of that. I mean, it's really complicated right now, all the things that they have to balance. So Arizona State, look, I mean, there's not really a lot of harm at this point for Kenny Dillingham to hold out and try to get more and more and more. We've heard that he's in conversations about a contract extension, but nothing's happened to this point. And I think that until that is officially signed and he officially kind of says, like Kalen DeBoer did just a couple days ago, that I'm not considering that job, I mean, it's going to be hanging over his head.
I mean, the ego on Michigan to think they can just hire the Alabama coach out of the playoff was kind of crazy to me that was even a thing. But, you know, I mean, Penn State had the same kind of vibes to it as well. It's a potentially great job, but it's not as great a job as it was before. Like, it's been very up and down compared to their big rival. How do they have to sell this to a non-Harbaugh related, probably non-Michigan man?
Well, let me make the pitch for you right here. Okay, so like you said, the last 25 years or so outside of Harbaugh been pretty inconsistent. But we are entering a moment where a program having the most money is the most important thing that you can possibly have. And if you want to be around a lot of money, the University of Michigan's got a lot of money, and they've got a lot of resource, and they got a lot of access. And this, I mean, I think that there's a really good case that Michigan at this moment is as valuable a job as it's been in 50 years. If you get everybody moving in the right direction, right? We see just last year with Bryce Underwood, the #1 player in the country, they get Larry Ellison to come in and essentially infuse their athletic department with a whole bunch of money so that they can land the #1 player in the country. They put together a top 11 high school class this year, even though they don't even have a great season under a head coach that I think was middling at best for his 2 years before he was let go. So if you're a great coach and you have the opportunity to come in here and have access to all those resources, I think this is a really, really good situation. And yes, you know, there's some weirdness that you have to deal with, right? Like the sort of Michigan culture of it all. And, you know, I think that even though there's a lot of money there, this is a stingier program, certainly, than if you go to LSU or Alabama, for example. But if you're the right guy, this is a potential gold mine at the University of Michigan. And I think, look, obviously it's very presumptive to think that they're going to go swing and take the sitting Alabama coach. But if you're Michigan and you have a couple weeks to work with, man, make him say no first and go from there.
So as the carousel kind of starts to slow down at least a little bit, save for the Michigan job, now it's the players that are now the hot commodity with the portal on the horizon. And we're seeing already the big quarterback dominoes or names starting to drop. Shahan, we kind of figured on Dylan Raiola. That's now official. Sam Levitt, that's been out there for a couple weeks, but now DJ Lagway. Also looking at Brendan Sorsby and a lot of smoke around him in Texas Tech. Your thoughts on kind of some of these early names that you see and where, I guess, kind of your brain goes when you think about the quarterback carousel this cycle?
Well, let me start with this. I don't know if the quarterback carousel is going to move a whole lot more than this. This might primarily be the names that we get this cycle, because think back to last year, especially in the Big 12, by the way. Players that are at programs that they like now have great incentive to stay there because they can get paid there as well. And so this might be kind of the class that we're working with when you think of the Indianas and the Miamis and the type of programs that really are trying to go transfer quarterback hunting. So that's the first thing that I'd say. I think that when you look at this cycle, right, obviously, I mean, Sam Leavitt to me is kind of that top prize most likely of the class, but he's got his own injury issues to worry about. The Brendan Sorsby thing, I mean, you just kind of naturally make that connection with Texas Tech, especially, I mean, he's a Texas kid. Apparently his girlfriend just transferred to play volleyball there. So like, you know, it feels like something that's going to make sense. But I'm really fascinated to see with especially some of these ex-5-star quarterbacks what ends up happening. I think of a Dylan Raiola, who, again, was at Nebraska. That was kind of the program that zeroed in on him. I'd imagine that he's going to have a longer-term view of what happens next. I mean, think about a kid like Dante Moore, who 2 years ago was at UCLA and transferred to be a backup at Oregon and learn behind Dylan Gabriel. I'm not saying that that's what Dylan Raiola is going to do, but I think that that's going to be much more in consideration than it would have been a couple of years ago. DJ Lagway, of course, really fascinating situation, former #1 quarterback in his recruiting class, but also one who's been very inconsistent, especially as a sophomore as he dealt with some injuries. So I think that the market's going to be interesting, both in terms of cost and suitors. And ultimately, like, I think that there are going to be a lot of programs that go quarterback hunting that don't necessarily like what they find.
You can take off your media cap for a second and put on your alumni cap.
I've got the Baylor sweater on today, I guess, right? So I'll put that on for a second.
Are you all in on DJ Lagway following in the father's footsteps and becoming a Baylor Bear as well? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, how's he going to compete with fellow Baylor son Nate Bennett for that starting job? But no. So this is interesting, right? I think that this is a situation that could make sense for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, you've got an offensive coordinator that does a great job with quarterbacks in Jake Spavital. He's got a great track record of getting the most out of these players. I think that if you're Baylor, like you have to kind of go in with like DJ Lagway is not going to fix everything about this program. Like you have to be clear about that. But I think that he can say some things about this program if he comes here, right? If you're able to land the #1 quarterback in the class of 2024, who's a legacy, and have an offer that's competitive enough to get him home, I think that says a lot. It potentially could help attract more talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to come with him. And I think that if you're DJ Lagway, like the opportunity to go to a place that, again, has done a good job with quarterbacks over the past couple of years, that's developed players at a high level, that has good receiver talent, I mean, that might be something that's attractive to you. So I'm not going to say that it's like this perfect, like, again, I don't think that DJ Lagway is going to come here and then they're going to win the Big 12 next year. I just don't think that that's realistic. But I actually think that this is potentially a situation that could make a lot of sense for both sides. So I'll be fascinated to see. I mean, look, maybe Lane Kiffin decides like, hey, DJ Lagway, I want you to be my quarterback at LSU. And then maybe this is a non-starter. But there are definitely some signs that I think that makes sense that maybe this could happen.
Well, I would expand on that question too. Baylor, Wisconsin, Maryland, Florida State, I'm probably leaving somebody else out here, are either dead coach walking scenarios or the reinvestment into the program works and they're good again and those guys stay. If you are a quarterback, any transfer player who's considering that, wouldn't that knock it down a level unless you only had 1 year to play, or especially maybe if you have 1 year to play? Like, why would you consider going to a place that may not necessarily help you get better because the coach is on the way out no matter what happens?
Well, I think that part of the question is, does the program help you get better even if the coach is on the way out, right? Like that is part of the equation as well. I mean, think of at Maryland, like you said, Mike Locksley is a great quarterback recruiter and developer. He's done a great job of building offenses. And Malik Washington, who was a true freshman this year, decided whatever happens next year is probably going to be better for my development than going somewhere new and trying to figure something else out, right? So I don't think that those things are necessarily mutually exclusive. And like I mentioned, right, like I don't think that it would be the worst thing in the world. Like what's for DJ Lagway, you have to think about the downsides, right? One, if they can't protect you, obviously this is a huge issue. And they didn't do a great job of protecting this year. I think that also, though, like there's a pathway where maybe this doesn't work out. Maybe Dave Aranda gets let go. But like you still have an opportunity to put up some big numbers and develop in that system. So that's not necessarily the end of the world for you either. And frankly, you can go into the 2027 cycle and have an opportunity to either transfer or go to the NFL. So I don't necessarily know that it matters a whole lot what happens past this next year, because I don't think that for good or bad reasons that many people are thinking past the 2026 season at this point. I do think that if you can land in a situation where you have a clear developmental pathway and also you have the opportunity to be part of a good competitive program, like that's probably a better situation for you. But I don't necessarily know that the inverse is disqualifying either when you look at both the short-term cost and also what you want out of it.
So Oklahoma, Alabama, Friday night, the triple header on Saturday. There's two underdogs, big ones in Tulane and James Madison. We just had the Twitter feed for JMU Sports News. Jack Fitzpatrick, he was great. Your thoughts? There's two games that are supposed to be, maybe they get out of hand, but even last year, some of the higher ranked or thought teams, Oregon was getting blown out by Ohio State 34-0. Your thoughts about just getting to the tournament now, getting to the playoff bracket and seeing what happens?
Yeah, I mean, the first round games last year were decided by an average of 19.3 points per game, and none of those games involved group of 5 teams. So, like, you know, I think that that's something that people need to kind of get over a little bit, that sometimes teams that make a tournament lose badly. It's just, I don't think it's that big a deal, even though I think people have tried to turn this into something that it's not. But I actually think that this weekend is going to be a lot more competitive for a couple of reasons. One, certainly you have the two obvious competitive games, right? Like Miami versus Texas A&M could be a heavyweight battle. Like I think that both those teams, if some things break right, have the upside of going on a title caliber run. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I think that both of them have that upside. I think for Oklahoma and Alabama, like this is a real battle, right? Oklahoma's got one of the top 3 defenses in college football, and Alabama, when they've played at their best, has had one of the most productive passing offenses in all of college football. So I think that that's going to be a great battle. And look, I don't think that the group of 5 teams are going to win their games, but I also don't think that they're going to get, libertied, right, from a couple of years ago, right? Like that is very much an outlier in the context of these group of 5 games. I think that Tulane is going to bring a lot more to the table than they were able to in their first game against Ole Miss, especially as they've allowed quarterback Jake Retzlaff to get a little bit more comfortable. And I think that also like this James Madison team is fearless. I mean, their story is so cool. Just 4 years ago, they were an FCS team. They've transitioned up, obviously led by Kurt Signetti. They lost everybody, and then Bob Chesney rebuilt it back again. And now they're 12-1 Sun Belt champs and in the playoffs. So I think there's going to be a lot to be intrigued by, a lot to be interested by. And look, maybe it's just me. I think that it's, even though I expect James Madison to get beat pretty badly, like, I think that it is a lot more intriguing to see somebody get their chance than it is to just see, Tennessee just be out there, even though they've lost previous games and get blown out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I look forward to it. Alabama, Oklahoma, it's like a best of 5 or whatever. If Oklahoma wins, they win the series 3-0. Thank you very much. Shahan, good for you on the Heisman vote, and have a great week. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Shahan Jararaja with us, CBS Sports, Tuesdays in the 4 o'clock hour. And I wanted to share this. Roy Melton, one of our viewers, remember it was, 2, 3, 5 weeks ago when we had Eric Morris on, who was North Texas's football coach and now headed to Oklahoma State. And Roy Melton sent a picture of the Eric Morris jersey he had when Morris played at Texas Tech. It was the last game that Eric Morris played with the Red Raiders. that he contacted me. We had Eric on the show. I sent Roy his address. He got it back in the mail today, signed by the now Oklahoma State football coach, Eric Morris.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So congratulations on getting that inked up there, and very neat token to have. And who knows how much more that's worth in a few years, depending on how his coaching career goes, because he's only on an upward trajectory. I did see a lot of the talk about Mestemaker expected to enter the portal, but did see where I think it was like Matt Zenitz that said it's not a foregone conclusion that he follows Eric Morris. And I said that just a little while ago. If I had to put my money down, I'd anticipate that's where he goes, but he'd be stupid to not play the field and just see what teams are willing to offer him. And Oklahoma State, I would think right now is when they're going to have the most money they're going to have to splurge and spend on retooling, because they've been gearing up for it for so long. So I don't think they're going to be able to cry poor in this scenario either. So, yeah, get out there and drive up your price and get what you're worth, young man, because if it's like Shahan says and it's a handful of quarterbacks in the carousel and that's all that there is to choose from, and one of them's maybe a foregone conclusion already in Sorsby, or Mestemaker's a foregone conclusion, but like any of these guys, if it's a thin field, that's good for them, because that just means that there's going to be more of a craving to try to get one of these handful of guys to a dozen different places that are going to be looking for a QB. So, yeah, it's like the recruits. You're getting paid for just being a recruit. It's a great time to be a quarterback that's got some skin in the game and having an opportunity to go enter the portal.
I've just been kind of reading transfer portal articles about quarterbacks the last couple of days as kind of the flood happened, and you try to put the pieces together. But you mentioned about paying to be a recruit. There are some FCS quarterbacks that have unbelievable numbers that are in the portal. Unbelievable numbers. Now, some of them might work out and Cam Ward their way on up the ladder. And I hope that that's true, because I love those stories. But I do think that there's going to be 3 or 4 that make the most money of their life and wind up in a situation where they're on a 4-18, because it's just kind of the nature of the beast. And it's good to be a quarterback right now. I like looking at just FCS transfers over the last couple days of the guys who have huge numbers, which after what we saw this year in transfer portal, what the most effective thing is getting guys who produce, right? So it may not even completely matter where you produce, but if you have, in 2 years, 100 catches and, 1,500, 1,800 yards and some touchdowns, you're going to make money. If you're a quarterback who's produced, you're going to make money. Whether you're ready for those levels or not remains to be seen. And the thinner the quarterback class, especially those FCS guys, are going to cash in.
No, we've seen that. Quarterbacks, we've seen it already. And what Chambliss is a great example with what he's done at Ole Miss. What is his classification?
I think he can come back.
I think he has another year.
Well, he has that commercial now where an AT&T commercial. Yeah. So,
by the way, super chat from Kim Coulter. This is about the private equity in the Big 12, et cetera, or Utah's deal. Any school that takes $1 from from PC is admitting they're struggling financially, which is arguably a death knell for them in the next round of expansion.
Yeah, Trinidad Chambliss has another year. I think he has a year left, because
I do know he has one. Yeah,
so he'll be able to come back for Ole Miss, and that's great news for them. And there was somebody else.
AI is saying he filed a waiver. So,
I don't know why he would need to do that, because he's played 22, 23, 24, 25. He played in 2 games in 22, or didn't even play. So I don't know why he would need another year waiver.
He has to file a waiver, and Finley is going on his 7th team.
Well, he has to file a waiver as well.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Finley, that whole story is just ridiculous. The fact that, I couldn't even, I don't know. I don't want to disparage the young man, because he might be the nicest dude in the world, but I just don't even know how I could look myself in the mirror if I was trying to go play for my 7th school in 8 years, or whatever the hell 6 and 7, or
he was at 2 schools this year.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, because he got in trouble, and then he had to move to another school.
Yeah,
so
the
I don't
Facebook
know.
Marketplace thing.
I don't know, even the character part of that, based on that part of it. But yeah, that's just a ridiculous story. That's not good for college football or college sports. It's good for one person and one person only, or maybe 2, Finley and his agent, and that's all it's good for, basically. But nevertheless, I won't get off on that tangent. There's some big quarterback decisions to still be made, but Perhaps Sheehan is, as Shahan's right, and this is kind of the bulk of the big names. I guess we'll see. But to Kim's point on the private equity, private investment, I know they're different, but in regards to just that whole story, I do feel like it's going to be very telling on whether BYU or Texas Tech are taking the money. Are they taking the money with all they've got at their backing? I know that BYU doesn't just have like the cash ATM for the whole Mormon church. It's not operating like that. And I know that Texas Tech doesn't have an end-all, be-all, like no matter what, we can just take what we want whenever we want from Cody Campbell and all the rest of the donators out there. But do they need to go that route, or are they secure the way that they are?
Let me ask you a question. Let's just say you had unlimited money. Garrett, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got to take a break for
we'll
Matt.
go right to Matt.
Okay. So you have unlimited money. Why would you take out a loan? If you have some schools that have unbelievable amount of money, I know some have high debt as well, but if you're Texas Tech, why would you do that when you have right now the billionaires and others who are supporting you?
You're also spending money. So
yeah.
who's out there agreeing to the Big Ten deal? Ohio State, who makes more money than Ohio State.
They have a massive amount of debt. I mean, even if they have
right, but you're making a bunch of money, you're spending the money.
Yeah.
So like Texas Tech's not sitting there just raking in they're taking the money and they're not spending. They're spending it clearly on the roster and on facilities and things like that. So I don't know. That's where Matt can shed some light, but I do think there will be your Iowa States that need it to just stay above water. I think Kansas State needs it. I think UCF probably needs it. I think like most of the schools in the Big 12 probably need the money. If most of the schools in the Big 10 need the money, then most of the schools in the Big 12 need the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the two that we think has the money, we know Utah needs it because they've already cut a separate deal. So they're going to maybe double dip. Utah is. We'll see how they decide to move forward, but they're going to have at least one private money deal that's already been announced, and then maybe this one through the Big 12. But, yeah, Tech and BYU, those are the two that I look at and I go, I wonder if y'all go dip your hands in that pot or if you've got enough in the coffers that it's not as much of a concern for you. But if it's there to take and you feel like you can make it back, especially those two with having the success on the field they have, then maybe you feel like you can have your cake and eat it too. I don't know. That's what's going to be really interesting to see.
That's why, in fact, reached out to Matt Brown even during the weekend to see if he had a chance to visit with us. And he big timed us earlier today. I mean, we were shoved into the gutter. No, I'm kidding you, Matt. How you doing? I know you had another segment. First of all, thanks. Merry Christmas to you. So did you hear our conversation about the private equity? If you take it, is it because you need it or you're desperate or what?
Matt, you're muted.
You're muted. That's okay. We still muted? Yeah. Want to take a break? He's never muted. Matt, does
you hear me now?
There you go.
Hey, okay. So sorry about that.
No, it's okay, buddy.
First I big time you, and then we have 45 seconds of dead air. I know I'm history's greatest monster. No, fellas, I did get a chance to hear what you were talking about here before. And the private equity or the private capital situation, which is a little bit different what the Big 12 is considering here, is different. The way I think about this is that typically, if you're a public university and you want to build something like a new stadium, some new facilities, new kind of investment here, typically if you're a public school, you have other ways you can raise that money, right? Beyond private philanthropy, you can sell bonds, you can tap into the credit rating of the public institution. Depending on your state, maybe the government can give you an appropriation, and you don't have to give up any kind of equity or have this sword kind of hanging over your head. Private schools don't always have that ability or that same ability, and you might need to build stuff that requires more money or faster money than what the state might be able to provide to you. What I think is very fascinating, and I really wish more schools would talk about this more, is spelling out exactly what they want the private capital money to do and where they're going to spend it. And I think if you're a school in the Big 12 and you're looking at that money for something that's not athlete salaries and not coach salaries, it may be defensible. If somebody said, hey, listen, our football stadium, it was built with works progress money in 1944. and it doesn't have luxury seating capabilities. It's got these terribly uncomfortable bleachers. We want to be able to modernize it, put in some taps so we can sell beer that's not in the bottle. Have some luxury seating areas, and we need to spend $100 million to do that. We think it's going to pay back over a 20-year period. I think that's entirely defensible. That's what NFL teams and NBA teams do. If you want to say we want to do a real estate development around our stadium and maybe have some mixed use, housing that we might own, or some commercial developments like what Florida State was looking to do, and what Colorado State and San Diego State have done recently, I think that's justifiable. If you take out this money just because you saw Texas Tech allegedly spend a bunch of money this year and think, by God, we got to do this here too, then I think you're running into some trouble. Because if everybody in the Big 12 hypothetically sells this, borrows money from Drew Weatherford so they can spend $32 million on their football team, Tech and Ohio State and Texas and Oregon are just going to spend 45. And all you've done now is put yourself in the exact same situation you were before, but you spent $20 million more money. And then you got to pay that stuff back. I look at that as really worrisome. And I would like more schools, whether that's Utah, and I'm going to talk with some folks at Utah in about 25 minutes here today, or at Tech or Baylor or anywhere else. I want to hear them say more what they need the money for, rather than what they're doing to go out and chase money.
Well, I mean, look, there are schools, when we heard about the Big Ten potential deal that got blown up by Michigan and USC, that you would have thought, like, wait a minute, you need money? Your alma mater, Ohio State, was one of them because they have a lot of facility debt, mind-blowing facility debt in that, especially given who they are and the revenue that they take in and all of that. So I think a little transparency is probably due, especially not just from a school like Baylor, who, okay, well, here's where we're going to do it. We don't have as much money as Ohio State. Ohio State really needs to say, here's where all the previous money went and why we need to do this to balance the scales a little bit.
Yeah, I called Ohio State. Like, I don't mind saying this, and I wrote about it as an alum and somebody who writes about college sports finance for a living. I was very surprised to see Ohio State really advocate for that particular private capital deal. Like, I thought the Big Ten deal was a bad deal. And I don't think Ohio State needed that. Ohio State has cheaper ways to generate that money. On paper, Ohio State's finances look worse than they are because the last MFRS report was a year they only had 6 home games. And you're going to get $20 million every time there's an Ohio State home game with 100,000 people in there. The finance report that I'm going to get in 4 weeks, when I file 200 FOIAs across the country, it's going to paint a very different system. But Ohio State was, as I understood it, Ohio State was interested in that because it would have solidified them making more money than anybody else in the league, like forever. And they'd like to build a hockey facility. And that's a little bit harder to do, to raise money for, when people want to give money for football or give money for some of these other things. But there's a lot of schools in the Big Ten that badly do need that money. Rutgers needs that money. UCLA is in debt up to its eyeballs and has a facility situation that's worse than many schools in the Big 12. They need that money. Maryland needs that money. Purdue needs that money. Like, not everyone is Ohio State. So I can kind of see here in the comments a little bit. I don't necessarily think it's an existential crisis or a sign that you're broke or that you're poor if you're a school in the Big 12 saying we might look at some of this particular money. The important thing is just, what are they going to do with it? And I would be a little surprised if Tech or BYU, because BYU's got a very weird, different financial situation going on here. I'd be surprised if they took it, but I wouldn't be shocked if many other schools in the Big 12 do.
Man, I know this is not like it's a crisis, but there's obviously some chaos in college athletics, no matter, not just football. But do you ever see that there's a breaking point, that there is 60-something Power 4 schools, including Notre Dame, that there's ever a breaking point? You hear about the Super League and who would be left behind. I don't know if they'll end up going much lower than what they are now, but is there a breaking point where somebody like, and I'm just using, doesn't matter what school, Iowa State, Kansas State, whoever, and they just say, screw it, we can't do this anymore?
Maybe. And it's a great question. And I know it makes for terrible sports radio, but I really don't know the exact answer. And if I did, I'd tell everybody I would not be in the $9 a month newsletter hustle, right? Your Mark would be calling me and Congress would be calling me, and I'd be doing a different gig. I can look at the same charts everybody else does, right? And what I tell folks is in 10 years, could you have a super league that's just the Power Four and it's financed by the Royal Bank of Saudi Arabia and 3 private equity companies and Learfield, and it's its own thing? Yeah, that could happen. Could you have a super league of 28 or 30 teams that kicks half the Big Ten to the curb and takes 1 or 2 from the Big 12 and does something closer to like the EPL? I think that's potentially possible. Could there be interest in this and Congress kills it? Yeah, I think that's possible too. There's a lot of lawmakers who represent the Washington states and Wyomings and West Texases of the world who might have a thing to say about some of this stuff. Could there be a contraction? Sure. Like there's very little about college sports right now that I'm very confident will be there in 10 years. Sometimes I have my own readers. I'm like, hey man, is Utah going to join the Big Ten? Is somebody else going to join the Big Ten? And I'm like, brother, I don't know if there's going to be a Big Ten in 10 years. And that's not because I think the Big Ten is like in a financially precarious situation, but that, we might not have an NCAA tournament or an NCAA or an FBS as we know it in 10 years because other things could look very different. So, which I know is frustrating for fans, and it's frustrating for anybody that wants to think about this stuff longer term. But there really is just a truly massive amount of uncertainty, legally, financially, how we all consume media via television or streaming or anything else. It's moving very fast.
Matt, I'm not as surprised as I thought I would be to see the winds shift on collective bargaining because ultimately, even though it's going to be complicated, it's still the simplest path to getting it, to stabilization at least.
Yeah, sure.
And it's weird to me that they would not want to call, once you start paying people revenue share, you still don't want to call people employees. But if I get a check from a place every month, I'm usually their employee or I've sued them and won. Like those are the 2 reasons I get a check from a place every month. So have you been surprised to see the winds of change on that? Or is it maybe the leaders have been beaten down to a point of like, well, I mean, we tried to do it the old way and it's not going to work anymore.
I got to be honest. I'm not surprised, but I'm also not terribly interested because I'm not shocked that a football coach or maybe an athletic director would go, boy, I sure hate getting my ass kicked in court every time someone has an antitrust question. It sure would be great if we could have structure so we don't have a Lane Kiffin jumping, schools in the middle of a playoff hunt situation or 45 players leaving a team. It would be great if we had rules we can actually enforce, and that requires collective bargaining. And I would say, wonderful, but you can't collectively bargain unless you have somebody to collectively bargain with. And management, which I would define as this case as the schools, the coaches, the leagues, maybe even the media companies, you can't invent your own union. You can't create somebody across the other side of the table to negotiate with. That's called a company union. And those are rejected by the people that they're supposed to represent. We tried this in West Virginia and people blew them up. Like, we tried this in mining states in the West and people died. Like that's not how any of this stuff works. If you want to have collective bargaining, you not only need schools to voluntarily recognize some kind of bargaining unit and potentially federal law to change, but you also need someone to organize and credibly represent the athletes in those negotiations. And by and large, that really isn't happening. Athletes.org is the closest thing we have to that right now. And they meaningfully only represent a tiny percentage of college athletes. And because they graduate and leave the system every year, you have to constantly reorganize those people. I'm not saying that collective bargaining is impossible. In many ways, I think it would be a preferred outcome. But I also don't want an athlete rights organization to exist and participate in these kind of conversations if they're not powerful enough or credible enough to actually represent those athletes. And I think that's been a problem with collective bargaining in professional sports for decades and is likely to be the case when it begins in college sports.
I had this nugget from earlier. I was on the phone, made a lot of calls today to high school coaches and others, and I was talking to one of them about his players and where they've already signed or whatever, but he had a high school player that was given or promised $250,000 not to take a recruiting visit because he was kind of committed to them, but they knew that next school was probably the one from the beginning. And they promised him $250,000 to not take that trip. And what are they going to do? They're not going to turn him in. They're not going to turn themselves in. And let's say he committed to that school and he went on the trip. What happens? How crazy is that?
It's extremely crazy. I'm so fascinated to see what happens with this Georgia lawsuit, right? Over the gentleman from Missouri about whether you can actually enforce any of these buyouts. Not to get super political, like part of me hears these things and think, man, we got to tax rich people more. Like somebody should be able to have $250,000 to throw at a 16-year-old to not take a college trip and go party with with undergraduates or anything, right? Like that feels ridiculous. How it's enforced is ridiculous. And I can't blame anybody if you find yourself in that position and somebody credible is offering you that kind of money. Yeah, man, I would take the money. If somebody offered me $200 not to visit a campus when I was in school, I'm like, yeah, not that interested in Miami, Ohio anyway. I'll gladly go take that money, right?
Yeah.
It's all, I think it's all categorically insane. It's been categorically insane, really since before World War II, but it is especially insane now.
Yeah, I was going to offer you $200 if you didn't do Feinbaum, but that just wasn't. No, that's awesome, man. It's been a long time since we've had you on, and we appreciate you being available again. We love the segment. Somebody in the chat mentioned that they love it when you're on with us. And Matt, thank you very much. Have a great holiday season and Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you guys, and thanks to whoever said that. You're warming my poor cynical reporter heart. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you guys here too. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Extra points. Go subscribe to it. It is worth it. I get it in my inbox and I love it. It's like what we get with our Big 12 weekly newsletter that Craig put together. And it's always you don't take it for granted that it's there, but it's nice when you see it in your inbox. All right. When we come back, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar. A little bit later on, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. We have the top 5 quizzes, the wheel and poll results, all of that and more. And this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco with Cheyenne and Joshua, the owners of a fantastic store. I was in Florida, and normally when I'm there, my brothers and I will go to a nice cigar place and get a couple of cigars just for the weekend. Didn't need to do that. Didn't need to do it because of what I have from Don Humidor. And, of course, offering right now, you can go online to donhumidorwaco.com and use the code word SMOKEY, SMOKEY, and you get, 25% off your entire cart when you order. And they have a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded with cigars. They have fresh ground coffee beans or even the fresh coffee beans where you can grind it yourself if you want, and so much more. Torch lighters. If you like smoking pipes, you can do that too. If you like what Paul and Garrett like to do, I don't think they have that. It's not legal. But at the same time, Joshua and Cheyenne are fantastic. And they created the website. And some of you are the ones that kind of help push them to do that and use the code word SMOKEY, SMOKEY, and get 25% off what is in the cart. Great people off Valley Mills in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. Special is subject to credit approval and membership eligibility. Visit GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into 365 Sports, or welcome back. A little Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories just around the world, floating around in sports. And I do have a follow-up on a story that was just of interest to me because I hadn't paid particularly close attention to it. But the Trinidad Chambliss eligibility decision, I was confused because he's only played 4 years of college football. So I don't know where there's this big debate on why he would need another year, because his freshman year, he basically didn't play. Like, it listed as having appeared in 2 games, but no stats, nothing of that nature. I'm not sure if he actually appeared or what, but he didn't play 4 games or whatever the threshold would be. So I was confused and wondering why you would need a waiver to begin with, but it has to do, and this is just for my own personal information, but it has to do with the fact of moving from D2 to D1 and how that is, I guess, the language is in the rule books that he needs a waiver since he started off in D2 to make that leap. So you would think it would just be very clear cut, and it's like, well, he didn't really play there. He's only played 3 real years. Boom, there's 4th. But he still does need a waiver since he did start off in Division II at Ferris State. So that's clearing up the confusion for me somewhat. I don't know why it's still that much of a muddy thing. I would think that given what they've handed out like Halloween candy over the last few years, that they could give this guy another year and actually a 4th full year to play football. But it's the NCAA. So I'm not going to hold my breath, because this would be where they would jump up and be like, nope, denied, because it makes no sense.
They like to die on hills. They really do. The NCAA is, we will die on this hill. And then the courts are like, I mean, you didn't have to. Like, you could have just saved yourself a lot of time. But okay, here we come up the hill to kill you. All right. I mean, that's what they do. Like, stop dying on the hill.
You know that injunction I brought up yesterday about some players who are asking for 5 years rather than 4, or just straight 5 years, no matter how many times you move around? The NCAA then came out and told all the conferences that if, in fact, they win this case, that only involves the 5 names who are on in the lawsuit. Well, then everyone else is going to file it, instead of just saying, this is the rule, we lost the case, this is going forward, whoever you might be. But no, they want to go back to court.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't really have a choice, right? I mean, you'd hope it'd be a blanket thing, but it's not a blanket thing.
No, but they can create that themselves by just being pro.
Can they?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You say that with a lot of confidence for an organization that can't seem to tie its shoes on a regular basis, much less enforce its own rules. But yeah, so it has to do with the fact that he was in Division II, and so just the way that is all set up, he does need the waiver for another year at Ole Miss, specifically seeking a retroactive red shirt for his 2021 freshman season. So, yeah, kind of strange, but he would have a plethora of options. I mean, I would imagine he'd stay at Ole Miss, but would Lane Kiffin sit there and try to lure him to Baton Rouge? I would think that would be awfully tempting as well. Not sure what their relationship is like, but Trinidad Chambliss, a guy who, if he gets that waiver, does stand to make a lot of money next year, whether that's in Oxford and playing for Pete Golding, or if he wants to follow Lane, or if he just wants to say, send me your offers and I'll decide what I want to do. What a turn of events for that young man. So, yeah, good for him. And I would think and I would hope that he will get that waiver. But again, it's the NCAA, so you just absolutely never know how all that might work out in the end. But what a story he has been. So meanwhile, this wasn't very much off the radar, but because of where we are in the show, I want to go ahead and just mention the silliness of it as we're talking about the silliness of Trinidad Chambliss trying to get another year. Did y'all see this ACC schedule release?
Yeah, we brought it up in a break. I was like, what in the hell?
So the ACC's announced its new 9-game schedule. As you know, everybody's now on the same page. Well, almost. We know the SEC's going to 9 games. They've pitched a big fit about it, and they want extra credit for going to 9 games. And there's that whole conversation about strength of schedule, but they did do it. And then the ACC, the last holdout basically of the 4 Power 4 conferences, I think probably reluctantly, they decide, all right, we'll follow through and do it as well. But an interesting little tweak as the schedules have been announced today. Not everybody's playing the same number of conference games next year.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm sorry.
So
my God.
They're calling it a transition year, but 12 of the 17, they're counting Notre Dame. Or are they counting Notre Dame? No, they're not. It's 18 with Notre Dame. Yeah, that's right.
Notre Dame would simplify this problem.
Yeah, they actually would. Notre Dame would actually make it a nice round number. So sorry, but yeah, it's 18 with Notre Dame. So 12 of the 17 proper ACC schools in this transition year, they will play 9 conference games, 12 of those 17. Meanwhile, 5 of the others will play 8 conference games. That includes Clemson will play only 8. Georgia Tech will play only 8. Florida State will play only 8. North Carolina will play only 8. And Boston College will play only 8. The ESPN article says they already have multiple Power 4 opponents scheduled outside the conference. So maybe that's what went into the deciding factor.
So that's the thing. They have to play – the way they balance it out is everybody has to play 10 Power 4 games.
Right.
So if you have 8 and 2, which Florida State does because they have Alabama and Florida on their schedule next year, Clemson does because they have LSU and South Carolina, then they don't have to play the 9th conference game, which for the 2 of them is actually probably good news because it's less likely for them to embarrass themselves against the team that they normally would have beaten.
Yeah, so you got Florida State wants to play Florida, or Clemson plays South Carolina, Louisville, Georgia Tech, also mentioned Georgia Tech playing, of course, Georgia. And so they've got those games lined up. And so that will be a part of their resume. But as a result of that, yeah, there will be a handful of teams that only play 8 games as opposed to the 9. This will this also factors in Clemson had already scheduled an annual series against Notre Dame. That starts in 27. So any year in which the Tigers are slated for 9 ACC games, they'll have at least 11 games versus Power 4 opponents, which if they're good, that would obviously play into hand for them. But this was approved in September. Each team required to play at least 10 games against Power 4s. And so, at least in this first year, there will be this off-balance scheduling with the conference games. The ACC also has said they are going to adjust their tiebreaker policies and for 2026 and beyond because of the unequal scheduling and because they need to anyways, just based on
what
this
could
year.
Go wrong? Yeah.
With your backwards ass conference championship game scenarios that you had in play there at the end, and your 5-loss Duke conference champion, even though that was the total of the entire season. But yeah, it's just funny to see this because it's just like, of course, this is not going to be a smooth operation.
So what happens, Paul? What happens if a team that has 9 games goes 8-1, and someone else does too, and they didn't play each other, and somebody that plays 8 conference games goes 7-1, and they didn't play either one of those teams?
Yeah, good question. Let's see those tiebreaker policies. It's probably going to rely on the rankings. Like Craig, that's the simplest thing is just go by the rankings, which are
that's
highest
what I said was the two highest ranked top 25 teams.
Which is actually was actually their tiebreaker when they initially went to divisions in the ACC. When they had the teams come in like Miami and Virginia Tech, and they had divisions, it was going to be the 2 higher ranked teams because at that time they knew that was the smartest thing to do to make sure that your best teams were advancing on. I do have this question. Okay, they call this a transition year. Are they or are they not, if they don't pick up another team, going to have 17 teams again?
Yes,
in 2027. So if this is a transition year, am I to believe that they won't have this problem again, or they believe they won't have this problem again?
No, one team is going to play 8 conference games starting in 2027.
Oh, that's okay. 20, one team. So it's one team per year will play 8 conference games. Okay.
And they will have to play 2 Power 4s.
Yeah.
So to make up for the lack of
So it'll just be the one team. Yeah. And this year it's, because there's already the teams that have the ones on their schedule. They don't want to get rid of them. So that worked out for them. But yeah, my question was, okay, so what do you do? It's one team. Now I know that there was some thought that they would take the Notre Dame part of the schedule and that game would count towards the conference record for the teams that had Notre Dame on the schedule. But then Notre Dame has made these deals with Clemson and some others to where it's not the same even rotation as it was going back in.
Remember when the Big 12 just played a round robin?
It was the best thing. We never. I loved it even back, and they still screwed that up. But I just don't know why that's not the way it is. I understand expansion, et cetera, but that would be it's so clean and tidy.
Yeah. So in 2027, 16 teams will play 9 ACC games. 1 will play 8. Due to having 17 teams, they're going to update the tiebreaker policy, and this is just going to be a mess. Like I can already tell, there's going to be an 8-0 team and an 8-1 team, and then like another 8-1 team,
or an 8-0 and a 9-0,
and a 9-0 team, and it's just going to be a mess. So we'll see what their tiebreakers look like. But man, the ACC, there's 4 scheduling changes in 4 years, mind you, as well. They've had to make a change each of the last 4 seasons due to all the realignment and then the tiebreaker mess. And so we'll see what that tiebreaker looks like. But here's the thing. In a couple years, they could have 22 teams for all we know, or they could be in some alliance or I don't know. But it just kind of plays into the yakety sax feel around the ACC with the whole conference championship debacle, even though it ended up working out just fine because they were absolutely thrown a bone by the College Football Playoff Committee on championship weekend. And Miami getting in there. So there you go with that. All right. Meanwhile, outside the world of college football, there's just so much going on. I had to even include a little bit of that in this grab bag here. But pretty fun weekend in the NFL. Got wrapped up last night with a not very fun game. Steelers just trounced an awful Dolphins team, 28-15 to bring the weekend to a close. But man, the Cowboys. Want to at least give you 2 cents before we get into John McClain here, Paul. J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings with a big win in Dallas on Sunday night, and the Cowboys barely above water at this stage.
He was fantastic. He'd been playing so well.
Well, he played really well the week before against the Commanders, and then. But here's the thing: with slump busters in sports and in dating, the amazing amount of things that they can do for your confidence. So he wallops the Commanders, slump buster. The Cowboys, kind of an upgrade on the slump buster, but still a slump buster. He plays really confident. That defense is really bad, and they make really average to bad quarterbacks look great week over week over week. And then Jerry went on the Fan this morning and basically like throwing Matt Eberflus under the bus
could not have backed over him.
Would be too kind of a punishment for that. Like that I would like to be thrown under the bus compared to the punishment that Jerry kind of threw him under. And leaving out the fact that, like, hey, I hired this guy for 6 months. I told him Micah Parsons. And then, like, 1 week before the season started, I just told him, like, I was bullshitting you.
Yeah. He made some very obvious
Eberflus
comments about Eberflus.
Eberflus is as good as gone. Whether that's completely deserved or not, he's as good as gone.
Who's the one that gave him that team? Who's the one that gave him those players?
Jerry is.
Yeah.
But also Jerry's the one who Buddy hired Eberflus in the first place because they liked him when he was there before and thought that he would be good. So
So less than 1% chance, or about a 1% chance for the Cowboys to still make the playoffs. One team we know is not making the playoffs. It will be a very different looking postseason. No Kansas City Chiefs this year. And even if they were still in the running, which they're not, they would have to do so without Patrick Mahomes, as he has already had surgery for torn ACL and also got his LCL repaired after going down this past weekend. Got worked on by the Cowboys team physician, Dr. Dan Cooper in Dallas. I believe it was just last night, repairing the torn LCL in Mahomes' left knee, according to NFL Network. He's going to begin his rehab process immediately. He probably was working out today doing something like stretch bands or some kind of stuff with Bobby Stroop, I'm sure. But yeah, less than 2 minutes to go in the game against the Chargers, one they would end up losing. He gets tackled and his leg just awkwardly gets kind of stuck in the grass and bends, and it didn't look good, but you hoped maybe it's just a hyperextension, but instead full-blown tear, and he had to get it repaired. So now we await like the countdown for him to return by week 1 somehow of next year. Some absurd comeback and recovery story, but Micah Parsons joining him this past weekend, torn ACL for the Packers linebacker, former Cowboys star. And I saw somebody put a list together of Parsons torn ACL, Mahomes torn ACL, Nick Bosa torn ACL, Malik Neighbors torn ACL, Tyreek Hill torn ACL, Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, just a bunch of torn ACLs affecting the NFL this year. But those two in particular, I mean, talk about playoffs and big picture. Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons both going down this past weekend. Not great for the TV execs, but it does make things very, very interesting for the rest of the landscape.
And, you know, even Jaden Daniels almost – right, he's going to get shut down.
He's getting shut down, and he is not happy. He talked about the frustrations of this year. Super frustrated is what he said by the season. Said he doesn't want to miss games. It's been a frustrating and disappointing year, but you learn and move forward. He said he didn't meet the markers to be cleared to keep playing, but that he's getting better and that longevity is the big thing. So he wants to be smart with the injury. But yeah, Washington just complete plummet from the goodwill they built up last year with that fun run and Daniels Rookie of the Year and all of that. But yeah, he's being shut down as well. Luckily, though, not a torn ACL. That obviously would require a ton of rehab. He'll have to do some rehab this offseason, though, to get back to 100%. But yeah, just a bunch of injuries in the NFL. And this weekend, super exclamation points galore with Patrick Mahomes, of all people, being the latest to go down there.
Yeah, and
I mean, at least RG3 played most of the season his second year.
Mahomes was playing with a bad knee anyway and gutting through it. And the Chiefs weren't – I mean, you look back at it now as a Chiefs fan and you're probably thinking, well, they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. But you still have Patrick Mahomes, the magic man. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, they probably messed up a couple weeks ago by not sitting him down and just saying, like, look, we've got to rest you. We don't want to worry about this. But, yeah, I'm sure that we're going to get – Patrick Mahomes on some sort of accelerated timeline because his ACL heals faster than everybody else's.
Probably.
I hate it for him. The rest of the NFL breathing a little sigh of relief that they won't have him in the playoffs, though. With or without Mahomes, they weren't going. I mean, they lost the game. So.
What's the stat? And I don't want to interrupt your stat about those quarterbacks we will not see. Are you going to use that off the radar?
No.
Brady, Mahomes, and – who's the other one that have been a part of like every championship game for the last 15 or 20 years? And this is the first time that there's a third quarterback in that mix that won't be a part of it either. So, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I sent that to you, but
it'll be an interesting offseason to see what the that looks like for Patrick Mahomes in terms of getting better. And it will be interesting to see just no Chiefs in the postseason. It'll be kind of refreshing. This is also one of those things where you go, oh, he's going to win 12 Super Bowls, and then this happens. And then you wonder, like, now it's been, 3 years since they won a Super Bowl? And then you go, well, now he's 31 next year. And then you start doing that game. Although he got off to such a good start, he's actually got some years to burn before you worry too much about him not being able to maybe beat Brady's record. But I have marveled at him, and I know that he gets banged up, but I never feel like he ever gets, hurt.
Yep, good.
And he finally got hurt, and it's a real shame there.
The offense around him is not very good.
No.
They have some, like Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and they've got some, but they don't have a running game. Their offensive line is really bad. It's bad.
Yeah, Kelsey's on the back end. But meanwhile, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Chiefs and all that will entail for their offseason and some big decisions to be made there. But final thing here, Army-Navy wasn't the only game this past weekend. You had the L.A. Bowl. You had the Celebration Bowl. You had FCS playoffs going on. But in terms of a regular season college football game, it was Army-Navy, a.k.a. America's game, and it was a thrilling game that saw Navy score with just a few minutes left, hold on for the victory. It was CBS's most watched college football game of the season. Now, CBS is not in the SEC anymore, that's a big old asterisk of here's where it's different from recent years. But it did have an average of 7.84 million people watching as Navy picked up the victory out in Baltimore. Now, that's 2 million or a little less than 2 million less from a year ago when they had nearly 9.5. But it is the best other than that since at least 1990, second best viewership, since 2018, this game. So if you care about the TV ratings and all of that, just a nice number, average of 7.84 million viewers for Army and Navy, pretty healthy number and a really competitive and fun game as well. So nice little audience for America's game. And there's a few things off the radar.
My brothers, Michael and Philip, we sat there and watched that game. It was kind of a Horvath, the pressure of being on this show. He didn't handle it very well and didn't play a very good first half. But what a game it was with Navy coming up with the win. And I just love watching him play. I saw a few people that this is boring. No, I don't give a damn. It to me is awesome watching them play. All right, we're joined by Hall of Fame columnist John McClain with us on 365 Sports. John, how often do you, I may have just set this up for failure, but how often do you have a chance covering the NFL the way you do to watch Army-Navy game?
I watch every Army-Navy game, and I remember when game day was there in the past, I watched that. It wasn't there this week, but I'm fascinated. I love to watch the lead-ins on CBS. They always have such dramatic videos. And the neatest thing I've seen is ESPN did a thing, I think 3 years ago, where they embedded a writer to spend a week with Army, with the captain, and a week with the Navy captain. And they wrote about their week-long experience from classes, from in Army climbing the hills constantly to get where you are. It was just an incredible look behind the scenes in what Army and Navy do, especially leading up to that game. Now, I'm sure they did it because they knew that players, high school, a lot of players would see it and be interested in coming there. So I like that it's last because there's just so much tradition. How could anybody not like Army and Navy? And remember the greatest, and there was a thing I read too about all the greatest things that each school had pulled off pranks. And I remember the greatest was about, I'm guessing 15 years ago, when a limo came up and it was a presidential limo. I think they thought it was Obama, and they had the limo with all the writers, and they opened the back door to let the president out, and it was the Navy goat mascot. That was the greatest.
John, you and I talked last week about the Texans. They really looked good on offense this week. Again, they're playing the Cardinals, but they do seem to be finding at least some sort of rhythm as they head towards the postseason now. Do you feel a little bit more confident in them offensively going in than maybe a month ago?
I do, Paul, but we have to keep in mind that was the Cardinals. Now they host the Raiders. And the Raiders may be the worst team in football, trying to start over with the first pick, getting Fernando Mendoza and a new coach, and just basically starting over with a coaching staff. But so the Texans should beat them handily, but C.J. Stroud had 262 yards, no interceptions, 1 sack, 3 touchdowns, looked very good. And they had their first 100-yard rushing performance, and it came for a guy who was making his debut, Jawad Jordan, 6th-round pick last year from Louisville, who spent 2 years on the practice squad. And the only reason he got activated was because Nick Chubb was injured. And then Woody Marks got hurt. They put him in there. He had 101 yards on 15 carries, including a 50-yard run. So they feel better about their running game, believing they have some depth.
John, what do you make of just the rash of injuries this past weekend, and kind of there's like a list that you can make now that's like 10-plus names of torn ACLs this season? I don't know if it's just in the moment we're reacting to it, or it's because it's a couple of big names just this past weekend like Parsons and Mahomes, but it's kind of thrown things for a little bit of a loop, hasn't it?
I think it is, Greg, because, number one, we're used to seeing those guys play. Now, we're not used to seeing Parsons in the playoffs because the Cowboys seldom win, but of course Mahomes every year. And when you have your stars who are out, it is a loss that's bigger than if you lose another player. And that's terrible to say, but it's a fact. TV people, don't you know they'd love to have Packers, because everybody outside of the NFC North loves the Packers, especially when they're playing at Lambeau in January and they have big snowstorms, and maybe they still get in, but I don't think they'll be playing any home games. But Parsons, boy, that's tough. They've suffered some serious torn ACLs on that roster this year. And then, of course, Mahomes, they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. This is probably better for him. He didn't even need the swelling to go down. He had the surgery yesterday, and people say, oh, my God, will he be there? And the greatest recovery I've ever seen, Adrian Peterson in 2011 blew out his ACL and I think his MCL on Christmas Eve. And he came here to Houston to have the surgery and rehab, and he was ready for the first game in 2012 and rushed for more than 2,000 yards.
Yeah, he was a freak, a physical freak. John, by the way, you and I talked a little bit about with Baylor changing up with Doug McNamee now as the AD. They just hired the defensive coordinator. There's still other coaches on staff. And I think you and I have also discussed where they put their information and to whom, and how a lot of times it is to the national media rather than those who cover them. What was it like when you were covering Baylor?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. One of the reasons I retired from the Chronicles, I got tired of teams giving stories to national media.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this to Linda Livingstone and Doug McNamee. And this comes from somebody who's been in this business since 1972 and has covered the NFL for 49 years. You want to reach your alumni base. You want to sell suites and club seats, and you want to sell anything. National media doesn't do squat for you. It's the local media that sells. And some of these teams in the NFL and some of these lame brains running college programs don't understand that. I don't know why. It's pretty simple. Get the word out locally. Everything's going to get out anyway. When you do something with ESPN, how does that help you sell something? It doesn't. The local people cover your charity stuff. The Texans always, you opened up a can of worms, David. The Texans have charity events every Tuesday, and they love to have the publicity. ESPN ever there? No. NFL Network? No. The local media is doing that. And I used to tell the owners, and they're not the one leaking them and giving them information, and agents are the worst. The agents ignore the local people anymore. But if you want to sell the new message from Doug McNamee, don't be talking to the people around the country. They don't do jack squat for you or Baylor. Linda Livingstone, don't be talking to people around the country. Tell me the next time you do a charity and you see an ESPN writer there. They're not. You reach out to the local media they spread the word. When I see stories, on like you guys tweet stories, I retweet you to my 147,000 followers. I talk about it on all my shows. Waco, 4 times a week in Houston, Dallas, not Dallas, San Antonio and Austin. I tell all the things I see you guys put out. I talk them on all my shows. Talk about it in Las Vegas with Q, Nashville twice a week, Knoxville once a week, because they all know I'm going to be talking up Baylor. And nothing drives crazy than seeing stories be given to national media.
I just I scratched.
Did that answer your question?
I did. I scratched an itch, and I'm glad you killed the itch. John McClain with us, Hall of Fame columnist on mainly Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. Paul.
I can't follow. I can't follow the soapbox there. Which,
hey, let me say something else. I think, getting Clanderman was a great move. I didn't think they'd be able to get good coaches to come here. Nolan Aranda's on the hot seat. But what Clanderman did at K-State was pretty darn good. I think that is a good hire. Now, of course, they need to get the players. And 2 years ago, DJ Lagway was the player of the year in Texas. And we introduced him at the Kinder Texas Bowl. And he was in the Gridiron Legends suite, he and his daddy. And I told him, I introduced myself, told him who I was, what I did. And I said, by the way, Baylor is now giving NIL money. If you ever find a reason to leave Florida, give Baylor a chance. Because I heard Derek wanted him to go to Baylor to begin with. And I said, give Baylor a chance. And last year, that kid was great. Everybody in Florida loved him. And this year, he had a bunch of injuries. If Baylor could get DJ Lagway there to replace Sawyer Robertson, what a great move that would be for the program. And I don't know that they will, but they need to try, and I'm sure they'll do that. But I know his daddy loves the Bears. They're both very religious, strong on faith, and they would fit in perfectly.
Yeah, the lineage, he went to Florida when he was a lineage in the first place, and so we'll see what happens. But interesting that his name is in the portal. Thank you very much, John. We are down to the last 3 weeks of the season. There's some great playoff races, a lot of things to be settled, but it is interesting, though, without the Kansas City Chiefs as a part of the run to the end. Thank you so much for your time, and Merry Christmas, sir.
Thank you, guys. Second Bears.
That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, with us most Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll come back with Paul Catalina's Top 5. We'll have the wheel. And then also we'll have quizzes. We love those from Andrew Valade and also the poll results. But one note, Chuck Ninus, former Big 12 interim commissioner. He was a part of the Big 8 for the longest time. College football administrator, passed away. That was released earlier today. He was a huge part of when the Big 12 started to fall apart again, when it was Nebraska and Colorado leaving, and then soon after that, A&M and Missouri. Chuck Ninus replaced Dan Beebe. Ninus held the conference together. Bowlesby was then in after that. But without Chuck Ninus, who knows what would have happened with the Big 12, even though it's changed dramatically even since then. This is 365 Sports.
This best kept secret isn't about changing your swing. It's about changing your state of mind. Special blend of mood-boosting, tempo-smoothing nootropics. Mojo Country Club.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
If I'm only wearing one suit this summer, it has to be Tuileries Performance Linen. It's wrinkle-resistant, machine-washable, and built with stretch and breathability that actually moves with you. It'll keep you cool, sharp, and stress-free at your next event.
When you view the glass half full, the little things become magical. 10% of profits go to help kids heal. So choose optimism and make the magic real. Visit lifeisgood.com.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Top 5 things that make the Michigan search complicated. This one is kind of one for the history books when it comes to how the coach was dismissed, which was in gloriously terrible fashion by Sharon Moore, and all the different things that have come after it. So let's dive in, shall we? Number 5, timing. Would Kalen DeBoer maybe consider this more if he wasn't coaching a team in the playoffs, say, I don't know, this week? Maybe, just maybe, this is the worst possible time to have this happen. And Michigan knows that if they want to talk to other playoff coaches for the job. But also, just a little side note here. Who does Michigan think they are that they can just call Alabama's coach and be like, hey, you know it's better up here. You like it cold, right? It's cold. It's the same, but cold. It's not the same. It's not the same. He's at Alabama. Maybe think about a different coach. But the timing of this is not great. And after Lane Kiffin's very spectacular departure from a playoff team to LSU, I don't think Kalen DeBoer is quite built the same way as Lane Kiffin is. And thank God that no one is, because Lane is one of a kind. Number 4, being a Michigan man. Read a column from our friend Zach Barnett over at Football Scoop this morning where he talked about the fact that they have not really, outside of Rich Rodriguez, gone outside the Michigan tree since before this guy, Bo Schembechler, was hired in 1969. So outside of that 3-year hitch with Rich Rod, they've always been kind of in the Michigan circle. And they could stay in there with Jesse Minter, who they could hire away from the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, and he would probably be the favorite any other time but now. But if you are Michigan, do you really want to stay inside this Harbaugh tree? And look, we don't even know what Jesse Minter really did in all the Connor Stallion stuff or whatever. But seeing as the school is under investigation by itself right now, then maybe you want to just stay away from the Harbaugh tree altogether. Number 3, expectations. The best and worst thing that can happen to you as a fan is winning a national championship, because you have climbed to the top of the magical mountain. The water is clean. The food tastes better. The air is fresh. Everything is rainbows and gumdrops. It's just amazing. But the reason that it tastes so good is because it's really hard to climb to the top of the magical championship mountain. Michigan went a long time, 30 years, between national championships, and they just had one 2 years ago. So the expectations for whoever now takes over for Sharon Moore, by extension Jim Harbaugh, is to compete for a national championship. And that's not wild and out of the blue, but that is what you're telling a coach they have to do pretty much right away because of what they spent on the roster, because you have Bryce Underwood, because of all these other things. So it's complicated in that, not that coaches don't want expectations, but stepping into a situation after signing day, potentially after the portal opens, depending on how long this takes. I don't think it'll take that long, but then having to say like, okay, got to be in the playoff next year and improve. It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. You don't, this is a weird situation to step into. Number 2, the way the last coach went out. This is not only a rebuild from a whatever potential roster losses you suffer standpoint, and who knows what those will be. Michigan pays well, so I don't expect attrition on the same level as other schools that might experience a similar thing. But there is a ton of controversy around the football program right now. So unless you are a person who is built to deal with questions about the staff that remains, the administration and how they handles things, this job isn't for you, because for at least a year, half your questions or more are not really going to be about football. They're going to be about, well, what about this? What about this? Is this better? Is this functional? And I know that very well because I sat here and watched it happen in 2016, where Jim Grove answered some questions about football, but mostly questions about the administration, what things were going on, if there are any other problems, a reaction to this story, reaction to that story, on and on and on and on and on. And Sherrone Moore, we've heard a lot about him in the last week. The affair with the assistant inside the staff. Also, his alleged penchant for talking to OnlyFans models while he was on the road. So, I mean, there's just a lot that could continue to come out here about Sherrone Moore. And I think that the next coach has got to be equipped to field a lot of questions that reporters have to ask, but you probably won't be able to answer. That was the thing that was sad about Jim Grove in particular, was he knew they were coming, but he had no answers to them. I watched them a week after he took the job field a bunch of questions about the team and the school. I'm like, man, he's still living in a hotel. Like, they haven't even gotten him in the rent house yet. Like, he is in a hotel right now. He doesn't even have a Baylor shirt yet. They haven't even figured out, are you a medium or a large? Like, those things happen, and that's just how it works. So you've got to be built a certain way to do that. And I will tell you, Jim Grove was, and Matt Rule was right after that. Number one, the AD is being investigated by the school. They also have an interim president. So there is a very good chance that the two direct superiors that every single football coach answers to, the AD and the president, will be different people mere months after you have this job. In my opinion, Ward Manuel has done enough, and this investigation should show it, that maybe this guy's not the best to handle the department. They've had scandal after scandal after scandal. And instead of kind of handling it after the first one, they were indignant, and they were like, how dare you besmirch the good name of Michigan? We are an honorable institution. We're Michigan men that run this thing. Okay. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody who's ever gone to Michigan, but that Michigan man right there oversaw some chaos. How complicit or ignorant he was in things remains to be seen. But outside of one national championship, which comes with a lot of mud streaked all over it, what's he done that's been great for them? What's he done other than have to constantly weather storm after storm after storm after storm? And let's also just throw out, maybe we need to talk about Jim Harbaugh's legacy as well. Anyhow, I'm not going to besmirch the good name of the University of Michigan anymore, but this is going to make it complicated to hire a coach, especially one who's in a good situation right now. There's a lot of smoke around Jed Fish, and maybe he's the guy. But he's in a good situation with a good AD and a good support system. Do you really want to jump out of the frying pan and into an inferno at Michigan? That complicates things. Now, look, they'll get a guy. They're Michigan. There are plenty of people out there who want that job, but maybe not right away. Well, that's going to do it for this top five. The carnival begins right now. Okay. The wheel. Okay. What's one song that stuck with you throughout your whole life? A good one or a bad one, Andrew? Either way. A good one? A good one.
I mean, there's a lot. Like my favorite song. Is that what this is asking?
Or something maybe that's affected you, like when you hear it, it stirs something inside you.
Man, I'll just go with my favorite song, Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, just as an automatic go-to for me. It always makes me feel nostalgic or even get some type of an emotion, whether it's just playing into being angry and it's up tempo, or it's just chill and kind of listening to Kurt's voice or whatever. Yeah, that's a song that it never gets old to me, but I don't know like a better answer than that one. Quite frankly,
that's a good one. Smokey, you knew.
Dobie Gray, Drift Away.
Okay.
That was in the 70s. It was he's a kind of a one-hit wonder. You know, you have a few of those. But I love that song. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay was another one that for whatever reason I like. But the Dobie Gray, Drift Away back, I think that was released when I was in high school in Japan.
I really like California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas. That's always one, too, that kind of always hits home and makes me feel good.
Yeah, mine is Tin Cup Chalice by Jimmy Buffett. It's one of his, like, if you're a Jimmy Buffett fan, if you're a Parrothead, you know it. If you don't, you probably don't, but it's one of his more mellow songs, and I like it so much. Like, I've got Amanda loves that song. My mom loves that song. It was the song that the ukulele player at our wedding played when I walked my mom to her seat at the wedding, because it's just such a fantasy for me. It's about watching the sunset at the end of Mallory Square in Key West. And I don't know if anybody here has done that. I've only done it twice in my life, but it is one of the most surreal experiences of your life, because you're at the end of like the square there. It just like the sun just drops into the ocean.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's unbelievable. And it's the most calm thing. And so I think about that all the time. And I've always loved Tin Cup Chalice, and that's the song that's always kind of stuck with me since I heard it the first time.
Drift Away got to 5 on the U.S. Singles chart, and nothing else he did was ever inside the top 10. But that was that's one that absolutely is my all-time favorite, or one I just go to. All right, thank you, Andrew. Very nice. We have Chat Room City. Where's y'all's Christmas spirit? Everyone needs to do at least one super chat a week for the next couple of weeks for the staff here, us, all of us. So that's a whopping $4. You'd be committing to a $2 a pop, please. So that's Kim for $9.99, and that's not it. We also have Firefighter 57, $20, Orange Power, and Merry Christmas. I don't know. I think that's Oklahoma State.
I
or is that Syracuse?
Yes, it's Oklahoma
Yeah,
State.
So he's got a cowboy.
I can't see that. I cannot.
He's got as close as you can get to a guns up
There we go.
emoji or the pistols
All right,
firing.
Eric Morris, fire. All right, Kim Coulter, nice post. Here's $3.65 times 2. Back at you, brother. Retired stockbroker who did the 730 out of course, the beautiful deep southern outside of Houston between East Texas area.
Kim's like a super chat auctioneer. I like it.
No, he was today.
I mean, do this every day, Kim. We'd appreciate it. But I know you'll be looking for probably make it a full-time role for you and put you on the payroll. But no, it's a nice gesture by you and everybody else. And yeah, Orange Power is Oklahoma State. And I think that they're starting to come out of hibernation a little bit because there's reasons to be excited. And there's a lot of fun, interesting things that are or could be happening in the near future with their roster and just their whole football program. And we know that can clean and make everything else feel even better than it already is. Yeah. So that fresh start for them, I'm expecting we're going to hear a lot more Oklahoma State feedback over the coming months and year. And I'll welcome it all. So, yeah, thank you to Kim and everybody else for chiming in.
I saw a note. Okay, this is from the old barn cat. Go K-State. Admit it, JJ, you're a little frustrated. Duck for 1999. There was a JJ in the chat that was kind of talking noise, Oregon fan, about Oregon, about they'll eventually whip Tech. They got to win their first game first, and they're supposed to.
Well, you know what? Oregon very well may do that. I think them and Texas Tech, so long as obviously Oregon gets past James Madison, which I anticipate that they will. But that ought to be a hell of a game because you know what? Oregon's not that different from Texas Tech. Oregon was doing the Texas Tech Cody Campbell thing with Phil Knight 20 years prior.
Right.
Oregon's never won a national title in football. Yeah. Although
no, they don't want you to know that, though.
From time to time, they will act as though they are in the same club as all of the others that have won national titles, and they're as close to a non-national title team as you can get into that club without having won a national title. Like, they are the first in line, banging on the door to be admitted, and the only thing they're missing is the secret password, which is a national title, or, depending on your definition, multiple, but I think that game right there, obviously you'll have another couple of steps to take afterwards, but that's going to be two programs who are not that different. So I don't think Oregon needs to be big time in anybody.
In the spirit of the Christmas season, there's a character in A Christmas Story named Grover Dill, and he is the toady for the bully Scut Farkas. And
what?
He's the toady. He was like his.
See, The Christmas Story was a very popular movie. I'm sure that you haven't seen.
So, but he was the bully's little buddy who wasn't really a bully, but everybody was kind of afraid of him. That's who Oregon is to me right now. They're Grover Dill, just waiting behind the dumpster and going, the people who don't know are afraid. And then eventually, like even when the bully Scott Farkas got the crap knocked out of him, Grover Dill didn't do anything. So,
yeah, I mean, I could see that kind of loose interpretation of it, but I do think that they've been knocking on the door for a while, and I think that they're awfully close, and that they're so close they can taste it. But I mean, Texas Tech's kind of the new Oregon in a way, if you think about it from just the donation and the big Cody Campbell versus the Phil Knight, and can you buy your way towards becoming a blue blood or becoming a national champion in this day and age? You can and freely do it, and there's no problem to it, whereas Phil Knight was kind of having to still be smart with how he did it initially. But Oregon, a program you thought would be like the kings of NIL, and they've been very active. But, it's also opened the door for Texas Tech. So I think that'll have some interesting backstory if we get to that point.
Oregon was able to get NIL from Troy Aikman for Dante Moore, right, when he was paid money to UCLA. Now, by the way, Oregon and Tech just played 2 years ago. Remember that game was 38-30. They've only played
the Tyler Shuck
3 times back in the early 1900s. All right. So did we do the last super chat? I think we did.
We did.
Thank you very much to all of you who contributed today to our show. And thanks for auctioneer Kim Coulter.
This coach popularized the tradition of awarding helmet stickers to players as a symbol of achievement. Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, Bear Bryant, or Bobby Bowden?
It wouldn't be Alabama's helmet.
I would say Woody Hayes.
I think it's Woody Hayes. I think he did it first.
They had those good-looking I
mean, they're the only one on that list that has all those stickers like that.
FSU does.
Oh, yeah, they have the tomahawk chops. That's right.
They haven't been given enough of them out.
There's not a lot of helmets with a lot of those going around these days, I don't think. I must have forgotten. But, that's right. But, I immediately thought of helmet decals, and I thought of Ohio State. And so, helmet decals started at Rutgers in 1960 when Coach Dewey King awarded stars for interceptions. Woody Hayes popularized them at Ohio State in 1967. The team added Buckeye leaf stickers after trainer Ernie Biggs suggested rewarding standout plays. Designed in 1950 by alumnus and comic artist Milton Caniff, the 5-leaf Buckeye symbolizes strength, becoming a coveted mark of excellence for big plays, wins, and beating Michigan, creating the season-long visual resume now synonymous with OSU.
My mother-in-law asked me about the Ohio State stickers during the Ohio State-Michigan game. She texted me and goes, "What do these mean?" I said, "It's for good plays." And she goes, "Aren't these guys in their 20s?" I'm like, "Hey, a sticker's a sticker, man."
I hope that's not something that becomes non-cool.
Something still matters.
Otherwise, looks like what Garrett likes to go by, the way it looks, that Buckeye. All right, go ahead. Another one.
This rivalry redefined college football in the 80s and 90s with high-flying offenses and future NFL stars. I mean, I would say it's probably FSU and Miami, which was the best rivalry of that time.
They played. It was most every year going to be for who's going to play for the national title, or pretty damn close to it.
Yeah. There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Since 1951, fueled by proximity, recruiting battles, and high-stakes games, it peaked in the 1980s and 90s. Isn't that the truth? Featuring future NFL stars Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, and Charlie Ward. NBA star Charlie Ward, by the way. Although a star would be a stretch. Although FSU rarely won, the rivalry produced unforgettable moments. The 1987 rarely won.
Yeah, I think that's very well written.
Rarely. Look, they missed a couple of kicks, but Miami leads the series 37-33. Those are on the damn kicks. The 4 kicks. Wide left, 1, 2, and 3, or wide right, 1, 2, and 3, and wide left.
You said a couple. That's like a couple of a couple.
Yeah. Well, it's 4 kicks.
I would think that during that time when both of them were elite and high level in college football in the 80s and 90s, that came kind of out of the doldrums or almost like gone, that Miami was that was their rivalry. I know Florida State.
It's the one I prefer. I think it's the one I have more fun watching.
Yeah, that was some great football.
I mean, to me, it's 1 and 1A between Florida State and Miami, and then Clemson is the third one.
You want to read that last two? Read the last two sentences if you don't want. he can, Paul.
Yeah, and the wide right 1 and 2 games.
Yeah,
well,
just wanted you to say that.
Wide right 3 was in 2000, and it was the worst day of my whole life. So I had to sit there. And when you see a wide right in person, you never come back from it emotionally. It was my Vietnam.
No! God.
No. So
bad analogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will Kenny Dillingham be the next coach at Michigan? 62% says his tiers say otherwise. 444 votes. And yes, the job too big to pass up. I guess we'll see.
I mean, I'd say right now, no, but not necessarily because of his tiers. I just think that he really doesn't want to necessarily go to Michigan. I think he would like to have his cake and eat it too at home there in Tempe. But I also know it's an incredible opportunity if it's even presented to him. That's the thing, is we don't know Michigan's level of interest. So this could all be crying for no real reason. But, I mean, the longer it goes on and the more he's asked about it and the more he gets emotional about it, then it makes you wonder of what's being said behind the scenes. But I think he's doing the Satake move of he's getting his staff and his NIL and all of that in place, and hopefully Arizona State takes care of that and ends this whole storyline. But, yeah, the longer it goes on, the more nervous I'll be. And honestly, I didn't really think too much of it until the Arizona State reporters are the ones out there. Now, granted, they may be drumming up interest for the sake of drumming up interest for clicks and whatnot, but to see a Chris Cartman who's as in line with what they're doing down there as anybody, and him to even say like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that does make me go, wait a second. Could there be more to this? I think Arizona State takes care of him and he sticks around, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have, by the way, Chris is going to join us tomorrow in the show, and his latest, everything changes the next 24 hours. So
and next poll, which legendary crooner reigns as the king of Christmas? Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole. Oh, man. This is
I finished. I said Nat King Cole. That's the one. That's what I remember. What a voice.
Merry Christmas to you. I mean, Bing Crosby sings White Christmas, so I think that probably puts him over the top. Sinatra's Christmas songs are fun, but he was the one who kind of, everybody's waiting for the man with a bag. But Baby It's Cold Outside is
that yours and Garrett's theme song?
Everybody's waiting for the man with a bag.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Gummy's coming a bag, I guess.
Nat King Cole he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was who I voted for. Yeah. All right. 143 votes. The previous one had like 500 or 600. Great job, Andrew. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Perry Como didn't make the list because you only do 4. Perry Como had some good ones too.
By the way, S. Michael DeHart, Montani Semper Liberi. In other words, it is for Mountaineers are always free. Of course, S. Michael DeHart served our country. We appreciate you. And then Patrick Cheney. Kim suggested we do this, Recom Tech, but more importantly, happy Advent and Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you for all of the super chats. Thanks to our guests, our sponsors. Thanks to you who view us, watch us, and give us your time every day. For Craig and Paul, I'm David Smoak. Thanks for your time and have a great night. This is 365 Sports.